and welcome to the January 6th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Luke, if you'd call the roll, please.
Sleeper.
Here.
Varney. Gruber.
Here.
Heinig.
Here.
Heinrich.
Here.
Neese.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Hanny.
Here.
Stegman.
Here. Next up, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda. Are there any other discussion items for this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the meeting minutes, and we have a set of two, the December 2nd regular and the December 16th special.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 2nd and December 16th.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, interested citizens will be heard on items not on this agenda. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to an item that is not on this agenda for the Planning Commission? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Item 6, food truck ordinance, discussion item. Brad.
As you all remember, last month we brought up the food truck ordinance that the city attorney had been drafting, and we recommended that we kick some of the topics around that we had been discussing last month and bring it back with an updated version. As you can see in the packet, the city attorney has drafted a new edited version before you, and we would like to continue discussing that this evening.
Okay, are there any thoughts?
I've got a couple thoughts,
Okay.
Tim, if I could. So one thing I do appreciate, I think, Nick and Brad, I thought the information you provided was really good. One thing I thought when I was thinking about this is that I can see examples where probably some mobile food vendors might work out well in all sorts of different locations around the city, and trying to put together an ordinance that would fit all those potential locations or areas that might not be good, I thought might be kind of difficult. And I was wondering if it could be done such that, and I kind of was looking at the Traverse City where they basically adopted a map or used a map adopted by resolution by the city council. And I wonder if we could do something similar to what we do with like events within the city, is basically each mobile food vendor would basically have an application and meet certain criteria and get permission from those affected parties, and then have a resolution adopted by city council that would allow that mobile food vendor, or it could even be kind of a generic thing if you had a business owner, say, that wanted to have like a different food vendor every week for, the summer or something like that. Maybe the owner of the property could put together the application and then, say what mobile food vendors they were looking at for a period of time. So those are my thoughts on that.
Just in response to that question, I think that for private property, it is typically done in a zoning ordinance and either on a district by district basis or something along those lines. For public property, that actually is the most common way to do it, is to have the city council designate specific spots or areas in the city by resolution, so that those are kind of easier to change in the future rather than going through the zoning process again. My understanding of when you're on city council, you would certainly know, but I did think the city council was looking for direction on as to both issues from the planning commission potentially, even though it doesn't have to. The specific parking spots doesn't have to come from the planning commission. That's something that we could get into at either level. but in terms of which zoning districts, that obviously does have to be incorporated into the zoning ordinance itself when we're talking about private property. So I hope that helps clarify things. One thing I wanted to try to make clear in the materials is that when it comes to public property, there's kind of, for the most part in small communities, it's a fairly narrow number of spots that most communities are tending to designate. I think Traverse City maybe had some more than some, and some it's just a few locations in the downtown area that are being allowed in some of these communities. So it might not be a massive effort to do that, depending on what the Planning Commission wants to do in that regard.
Yeah, I thought the staff did a great job. Nick, I thought you did a great job in the draft as well. I do think there's several open questions yet. The one example I happened upon that I thought was excellent is what Muskegon's done with theirs. And Muskegon actually has gotten to the point where some of their food trucks are now brick and mortar restaurants. So it's actually been an incubator for business along the lakeshore in Muskegon as well. So I'd encourage us to take a look at the Muskegon ordinance as well. And the other thing, just in general, it behooves us to remember that we're not a homogeneous city. One size does not fit all. Each neighborhood's a bit different. I would argue my neighborhood is underserved when it comes to opportunities for food, as opposed to some other areas that are closer to the downtown. So I think there's the one suggestion I really thought was interesting to talk about was the idea that in some of the residential areas where there were church lots or whatever, where we could find common areas that could be used for food trucks, that might be a way to look at it. So I think we're a ways away from moving ahead on this, but I sure think you moved us off the line a great deal in that first draft, so thanks.
And
Mike, hang on a second. With your suggestion of the church properties, most of those are not subject to property taxes, I believe. And maybe for a special event, once or twice a year, they could do that, but I don't know if setting up shop 7 days a week would allow them to retain their property status.
Tim, I only mentioned that because that's what
I think
was
it's a good idea,
That's what was in the packet.
Yeah.
But I think that idea of finding common areas within neighborhoods might work well. You know, the other thing that occurred to me, if we look at restricting the parking along Elkenberg, as people have been requesting us to take a look at, there might be a spot there that we could designate for food trucks. That once Overton is up and running, that's be a perfect market for food trucks. So I think there's things we need to consider to make sure that this does not become a discussion of downtown.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes a discussion of the city.
And I looked at that the same way, looking out my window today, thinking I live in a residential neighborhood, and there could be a food truck across the street 7 days a week, all summer long. And, you know, not that long ago, there was a gentleman who wanted to take his physical therapy business and do it in a building on his property. And we thought 8 people or 10 people a day were too many on a property. We could have 8 to 10 people every 30 minutes at a food truck in a residential area. So I'm trying to look at going, if we thought 8 people a day were too many, we could have 100 people in a lunch, same residential area. You know, so that's something to think about as opposed to other areas that might be more beneficial. Because I think I looked at a couple of the others, like St. Joe. I called them, and they said, well, we don't allow them in residential areas. We allow them in certain areas that are more business-type oriented. And that would exclude, and I know I've had a couple of food trucks on personal property, you know, high school graduation, that was the catering. He just happened to have a food truck and showed up. You know, that's different because it's not a retail establishment with cash flowing on an individual basis. But I would want to see, too, some kind of location in here, and maybe residential's just not the right spot yet for that kind of business.
I think, Clark, and I'm certainly look forward to that discussion, because it's going to open a bigger question. What is commercial use of a property in a residential area?
Yeah, because we might want to relook at that for
Yeah,
the
exactly.
other gentleman, so he can.
If I
have his
can, if I
business.
can run a room on that property, why can't I sell food?
I just have one little sort of, well, it's probably a Nick Curcio question. First of all, the draft is really helpful. I looked at them all, and it was great. I happen to have a little background as a food service director and understand what's involved in a county health department license. And it says that, you know, each mobile vending unit shall have available for inspection a copy of the required, well, it should say valid, that's just my, because if it's not a valid license, they shouldn't be serving food. And if they don't have a valid license, then we have given them a permit. I'm a little concerned about authorizing, like, they take that as an authorization and they don't necessarily have a valid license. If the health department yanks it for something, I just want us to be covered, that's all.
That's a good point, okay.
Hey, Brad, maybe for the next discussion on this item, next month or whenever we do it, you could have a map of where they're currently allowed that we could throw up on the screen. And that would include like with the special,
What was that? They're allowed in B2 and B4 only.
yeah, just so we can, just so we'll show the B2 and B4, but also during special events where these are allowed, which would be a portion of Water Street and I forget where else they're located.
Stanley Johnson.
Just for a little visual for everyone. Anybody else?
Yeah, well, go ahead, Larry.
Well, I just got one quick comment, and I wasn't here during the original discussion, so has anybody thought about having the food trucks where the customers are?
I left, the last time we discussed this, kind of excited because I like to go to food trucks when we travel, and just looked at the places that I've been to before, other cities, and sometimes they're polar opposite. Some of them encourage it in residential districts, others completely ban it. One in particular said you can't have the service window on the street side. The next one I looked at, Boulder, Colorado, said you can't have it on the parkway side if you're in a parallel parking spot. So two different communities had completely different experiences. Who knows what are those? So I think we've been asked to approve this for year-round. That seems, I haven't heard any objections to that. Brave souls that might be out on a day like today serving food. But the location, I think, is the big difficulty. Larry said, I kept writing down adjacent to parks, adjacent to the marina district, adjacent to the beach, but then I understand that there are problems with the license that we have for the current vendor down at the beach. So maybe we can have a long-term plan and when those licenses are due for renewal, make a couple of spaces. Other communities I noticed said you could get a permit for a very limited number of days in a popular area. I was thinking about our beach, but you had to you took up 2 parking spots. So, because if you're in one parking spot, then you really can't use the parking spot next to it on the service side because you're going to have a car right there. So, 2 of the ordinances I found had a requirement that you could get it. You had to pull a permit on the numbered parking spaces, and you had to have you had to take up 2 parking spaces. So,
Thanks, Todd. That sparked another. In my holiday travels, I was in Wixom, Michigan, and Wixom has a food truck ordinance. And part of their food truck ordinance allows neighborhoods to designate days where food trucks can come into those neighborhoods. And for instance, the property I was at is in Wexford Mews. It's a fairly large subdivision. 2 Wednesdays a month, they invite 3 food trucks in. And it's a wonderful thing for that neighborhood. People tend to go out and congregate, hang with their neighbors and get some food. But I think we need to keep our minds open to be innovative. Having food trucks doesn't mean something's going to be parked there 365 days a year occupying a space. It can be done by need, and it can be done by where the customers are, Larry, at given times and given seasons. So I think we've got our work cut out for us.
One more comment. A lot of folks, maybe younger than us, use apps. You pull into a community, you put in the zip code, and bang, there's the food trucks. And they move all the time. There are communities that shoo them along, and they're what's the word for people who just park and serve for 30 minutes? There's a name for it. I can't remember. But they come in and serve for a couple hours, move on, and you can find them with the app. So.
Yeah, there are communities that do allow that where, depending on the time of day, and that speaks to what you were talking about, going where the customers are. So if there's a particular company that has break time at a certain time period, that they're at that location. So being able to be flexible and being able for us to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to show their creativity is, I think, going to be important as we move forward.
I promise my last comment on it. That's a good reminder too, Elijah. That I don't know if anybody's noticed or anybody saw the news, but it just so happens that starting January 11th is the Food Truck Festival in Grand Rapids, where for 3 days they designate 6 spots, and different vendors, different food trucks fill those spots, and they have their festival. Well, you know, wouldn't be too bad idea to bring some people to town in South Haven in the wintertime with the festivals as such as well. You know, and it's another way. I guess there's one other part of it that people have told me they found attractive, quite frankly, and it would attract a crowd that, you know, food trucks don't serve alcohol, folks, and that changes the whole feeling about who comes and congregates around those kind of festivals, built around food trucks. It's more family oriented, and yeah, it wouldn't hurt us to have a little bit more of that in our brand as well.
Okay, anybody else right now?
Yeah, I just want to chime in on what Todd mentioned on the calendar. I don't see any reason to limit the months of operation. If it's too cold out there and the customers aren't going to be there, the food truck isn't going to be there either. They'll learn, right, and just let the market set that. We should leave it open.
One last comment, it's more housekeeping. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, we got in your email, a 2-page thing from Ryan Servatius about food trucks, generally supportive. Went through and did a tremendous amount of math on how many meals we don't serve to our guests every year, and that he's very much in favor of them. So.
All right. Anybody from the audience like to talk about this subject? No? Okay, so we've had some further discussion, and I guess we'll keep talking about this and reviewing this draft ordinance and send staff any additional ideas or comments for next time so we can focus this discussion a little more to get to a point where we'll possibly approve the draft ordinance in some way, shape, or form. Okay? All right, next item, number 7 on old business, marijuana safety compliance facility ordinance.
Sure, I can take this. This item is returning to the Planning Commission. It was discussed at a prior meeting, and the Planning Commission directed that a draft ordinance be prepared. What this draft ordinance would do would be to amend the city's existing marijuana regulations to allow only one new business type, and that being the recreational side of the safety compliance, which is basically the lab testing for marijuana. It's currently allowed only for medical marijuana. This would allow it for recreational adult use marijuana as well, and essentially allow the existing business in the city to get the extra license. that would allow it to service different types of businesses. I don't believe the business is anticipating any major change to its operations. It's just a matter of getting a license that would allow it to have a broader customer base. In terms of the draft ordinance, it's very simple in terms of its wording. It just it removes the prohibition on adult use marijuana and expands the uses that are allowed by adding the one additional use. Did anyone have any questions about the
Yeah,
ordinance?
Nick, could you or Brad explain why there are two categories for testing? Why one is medical and one is recreational?
That's just the way for, that's the case for all marijuana businesses in the state of Michigan. It has to do with the fact that medical was allowed under state law first and had its own state statute, and recreational was allowed by ballot initiative in a completely separate law about 3 years later. The two laws have different business types. They're essentially the mirrors of each other, but they have different regulatory functions because they come from two different statutes.
Okay, anybody else have a question for Nick or Brad before we open a public hearing?
Yeah, I have a question for Nick. Brad, I talked to Brad about this today. The zoning districts where this is allowed are both business and industrial. And I understood from Brad that that was because of the existing overlays. I guess from a planner's standpoint, I'd rather,
No, I think we created an overlay.
we created an
We
overlay.
created the overlay.
Okay.
It wasn't existing. We overlaid on top of those two zoning parcels.
Okay.
Yeah.
I question whether it's, when you look at where some of those are running up and down Broadway and in, adjacent to residential areas, if we couldn't just keep it industrial and remove the general business districts out of this proposal.
First off, I believe your question acknowledges, but the overlay already exists. This is just adding to the businesses allowed in the overlay. My memory is that came from state law, although it's been 2 years or so since we created this. I think it said, I think the statute says commercially or industrially zoned property, and that was where that originally came from. Sorry, that's the best answer that I can give right now. I wasn't prepared to talk about the original overlay.
But if we look at where our overlay lies, it's further east of Blue Star.
East of
Right.
Blue Star.
So
yeah.
it doesn't run by Broadway.
Okay.
For the most part, it's the
Right.
industrial park.
Okay.
I was going to state that a lot of these zoning districts are covered up and down Blue Star as well. You'll have some small areas that do have a business district in it, and then you have the industrial areas that are out in the park out there. Because there are different, the highway business versus the B2 general business, the overlay does not cover the Broadway district itself. It's strictly out on Blue Star and east of that.
I understand. It just seems as though there's, why include, I couldn't find any place where the overlay was in general business or retail areas. So why would we include that in the language? Wouldn't want to confuse somebody reading it later, as I was initially confused, about, why not just remove the general business and leave it in industrial?
I do wonder if that had to do with, there were originally two overlays proposed. One being, I think, a more traditional business type area, and I think the Planning Commission decided not to go with that one because of proximity to residential. It's possible that language is a carryover from that one being included. But I do know that we have a map that accompanies this ordinance that clearly shows where it is. I don't think there should be confusion, but I don't know if that sufficiently answers your question.
Thank you.
George?
Yeah, Nick, I'm looking at page 35 on the agenda packet. It looks like a paragraph that was added, and it talks about, obviously, that the businesses operate pursuant to a valid state operating license. and so long as the business operations on the site are not expanded to new areas or otherwise materially increased in intensity. And I'm not sure what, well, first, expanded to new areas, to me, could be, I'm assuming we're meaning new marijuana businesses, not new areas outside of marijuana.
I mean, and we're talking about physical areas within a property. So the purpose of this language is to say, we're really talking about a specific business. If the specific business all it does is upgrade its license so that it can serve more customers, we're saying it would not need to come to Planning Commission for site plan review because there would be no need for that. It would essentially be doing the same thing in the same footprint within its own property. If this new license is going to increase its business so much that it needs to physically expand on the property, do things differently in a way that affects the site, at that point, it would need to come to Planning Commission for a site plan review. And I don't think we know at this point whether that's going to be the case or not, so we wanted to have language in there that covers that possibility.
Yeah, so that expanded in new areas confused me. So maybe we wanted to specifically talk about physical expansion as opposed to expanding business operations to new areas, because that's what I interpreted. And then the other thing is materially increased in intensity. That seems very subjective to me as far as what materially increased means. And I would just assume get rid of that altogether, because to me it's too subjective.
We
I mean,
can do that
if they double their business in the same footprint, does that make that, then they can't do this, but they're in the same footprint? Yeah, I think you're right. It's a little confusing and subjective.
If we look at the language closely. So I do think that it would essentially serve the same purpose, removing the materially increase in intensity and just limiting the language to physical expansion. We could, if you want to make a motion that directs staff to edit that language to clarify that we're talking about physical expansion and limit it to physical expansion, I think we could do that and not need to come back to Planning Commission with a second draft.
I plan on making a motion, so then maybe we could amend that prior to its final.
And I can work on some language while you continue to talk.
Nick,
I'm done. Thank you.
Nick, just a couple questions. Again, I think the intent was to write this ordinance very restrictive, correct? I mean, it's aimed at solving one solution. That is the testing of recreational marijuana at a location that already tests for medical marijuana. I don't see the owner in the crowd here. I wish he was here to answer a couple questions. My guess is it's the exact same process. They may be looking for the exact same measurements. Just one's going to be labeled medical and one's going to be labeled recreational. This ordinance is not about distribution. This ordinance is not about processing. It is about the testings that's required, for those that sell this product either medically or recreationally. So we're really, when we read through this, what this ordinance would allow New Age to do is to increase their business by testing those small amounts of marijuana that will come through that gate that are labeled recreational, as well as what he's already doing with medical.
Correct.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I concur. I think when the one gentleman from New Age was here, said basically they're just going to be doing the same thing. I mean, they're currently doing it today, but it's going to expand the customer base, doing the same thing on the same type of product, which is marijuana. It's destroyed during the testing process. I see this extremely consistent and comparable with what's happening today. And in fact, I see the ordinance that way. We are just opening up that other business side and to allow that. So certainly appreciate the work that's being done and to look at that.
My understanding from his presentation to us before is his internal processes and procedures are already in place. The real difference that we need to keep in mind is what he also said is this involves increasing employment. And if this and those are good paying jobs. Those are jobs that allow people to have a standard of living that could actually afford to live in this city. So we need to keep that in mind too.
All right, if the commissioners don't have any further comment at this moment, I'll entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll move we open a public hearing for the purpose of hearing comments about Agenda Item 7, Marijuana Safety Compliance Facility Ordinance.
Second?
It's been moved and supported to open a public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Does anyone from the audience like to speak about this item? Please state your name, address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
I don't think I'll need 5 minutes for this, but my relative view anyway is, my name, first of all, is Richard Onson. And I live at 459 Jones Avenue. I understand our fellow citizens have voted not to embrace the use of recreational marijuana, which is why we have votes. But at the same time, America is, state by state, expanding the acceptance of marijuana. So even though we don't care to sell it here, we do need to embrace the notion of it is a market, so being able to help produce it and research it can only help our the standard of living of our neighbors. So I just suggest keeping an open mind to at least keep with the times in the country. I understand our fellow citizens are concerned, and justifiably so. But at the same time, the rest of the country is going with that flow. And that's all I have. 3:33. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, so unless there's some further discussion on this, I would think that we would tackle the draft ordinance first. Any language changes would get done now. So I guess, George, with you, you could point out that section, you could move to strike it, and we could take a vote on that and just work through the language. I know Nick was editing too.
Yeah, I've got some proposed language for that section.
Okay.
If we can, we'll talk about that. It would be to substitute what's there for, so long as the business.
Let's go, what page are we on?
This is page 35 of the packet,
Okay.
subsection C. Towards the middle, it says, "and so long as." So I'd be substituting everything after "and so long as" with the following. "And so long as the business operations on the site are not physically expanded through the enlargement of existing buildings or the addition of new buildings. To the extent a new proposed use involves such as physical expansion, a new or modified special use permit shall be required."
I like that.
Yeah,
Okay, does that work?
like that.
All right, so make a motion to make that substitution.
Let's see. So I will make a motion that the Planning Commission send the amended ordinance, sections 1510.35 and 2300, for approval to the City Council with the changes recommended by the City Attorney.
Is there support?
thought we were just going with text.
I was, but he made the motion,
Are you
so.
making a full motion to go to yourself? I thought maybe it might be best just to do the language first,
Oh, okay.
and then I'll tackle a full motion for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
one at a time, where you just want to do the language of the draft ordinance.
All right. So make a motion to amend the draft ordinance as specified by the city attorney.
Second.
Second?
Okay. And we were clear on the section. Could you just,
It is section 4C.
okay. All right, everybody on board with what we're discussing? Okay. So we've had a motion in support to amend the draft ordinance. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now you have the draft ordinance before you as amended. Is there a motion as to what to do with it now?
I've got one, if I may. After reviewing the proposed zoning amendment and finding it consistent and comparable with both the current medical use zoning ordinance and the type of services presently provided, I make a motion to recommend City Council make a decision regarding the proposed amendment allowing adult use testing to the current medical safety compliance facility ordinance.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? I think that motion is well said, and as I stated last meeting, this is more of a political item than a planning commission item. As Clark said, it is consistent and comparable. So I think that motion's top-notch. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote then. Luke, if you'd call the roll, please.
Neese,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Henny,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Varney, Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. Okay, next item on old business is the Harbor Club PUD amendment, and make sure we're going to be using the overhead for this, I imagine.
Yes, if you recall, last month, we visited this. Mr. Sinar from Harbor Club Development Residences proposed a planned unit development amendment to basically move 4 units from the existing unit map of the, or site plan of the Harbor Club condominiums in order to develop a location for a swimming pool and clubhouse or bathhouse on the property. The commission asked him at the time, they tabled the discussion and wanted to see some photographs of the property lines and also a schematic showing the distance between the property lines and the edge of Ravine Lane that does exist there. And as I said, I do have some of those photographs in that schematic that was submitted, so I can place those up.
Is there any particular image you guys want to put up on the screen, talk about?
How about the outline of the land? Is that currently in the PUD now? The land that's proposed, is that part of the PUD today?
Yes.
That is.
Yes, it is. Yes, if you look up on the map, and I will scan through the packet here in a second as well, but the 4 units, again, that we were talking about is units 147 through 150. here. As you can see in the original proposal here, the pool was initially over on this side and relocated, as we had discussed last month. That happened several years back in an amendment. And what they are proposing to do is construct the pool here in this area, along with that, and then place a parking area along this general vicinity. So in order to do that, these existing units, which are, legal property right now, has to be relocated someplace else on the property.
But we are not approving relocation of those
Not at this time,
properties.
no. They are not proposing any particular area for those sites. Let me scroll through
I think the
here.
biggest question from last time around was the west edge of the ravine lane and what the distance of that was to the property line and what resides in that square footage. Correct?
Yes, and you can see this is an aerial view of the property here. This is Ravine Lane, and that's where the proposed pool was located again. Here was the schematic of the design of the layout of the pool. This area here that's along this area is where the parking is being proposed. Here's some more detailed. Again, this is that parking area. This is looking south now. This is the bathhouse, the pool area. The units would be located along here. This is some of the just renderings of what the project would look like.
I think page 68, if we go up to that.
Oh, yeah, and they're not very good in here, but I do have the photos separate, so let me see which one that is. There we go.
That one.
Oops.
So that's looking west, I assume.
Yes, and I
And
believe
is that a property line, what is that stake there?
this stake, and I believe the applicant's here, so he
Okay.
can discuss this as well, but I believe that this property stake is on the east side of the property here for this, and I do have some photos of, let me go to some area here. If I can find the right one. Okay, so here's one of the recent photos that was submitted yesterday. As you can see, the property stake is located here. And the property, this is looking, I believe, north towards Baseline Road, which is up in the distance of the photo. And this is the edge of Ravine Lane here.
Okay. And the reason that ground where the road is elevated, that was from the project development cut and fill? They raised the elevation, I assume? That used to be a lower area.
I believe so. That would be something you'd have to discuss. Here's another photo of the stake.
And that property west is not where they're relocating
Beyond where the trees are now,
that's not part of the PUD?
that's not part of the PUD.
All right, I was just confused because we got this.
Yes, that was submitted by the applicant. So.
Okay. I think that's
If I
the neighbor's property.
recall, Brad, the issue that we batted around quite a bit was that vegetation there, the growth of trees that we see on a photo that we just looked at, and we see the stake there, whether that is on the PUD property or whether that's on the resident that raised some issues property. This didn't clarify that for me at all.
Right, and I think the other part was whether what we're seeing there is vegetation was intentional screening or that it was
Right.
just never
Natural growth.
developed after the road put in and just natural, right?
Right.
Okay. So,
The issue that I remember we were struggling with is, well, if they're saying that this is the barrier that they need to do to stop the sound, the noise, the other things that could cause some concerns for the resident there, if that is the resident's property and he chooses to take all that down, are they then required to build new berms up? Again, it seems like I think what we struggled with is it correct and right to put the obligation for that barrier on the property owner rather than on the development? If that
Well
makes any
said.
sense.
Well said, yes. Okay, any other questions on that? Maybe we could have the requester come up and explain what they think the screening is right in this location.
Good evening. I'm Scott Seiner from Harbor Club Development. As to the question of screening, just, a few background details. Since I know many of you on the commission were not here when this was originally approved in 2005, so just a few history points. The pool was originally located on the other side of the road, as, was approved in 2005 by Plan Commission. After the site was developed and things were put together, it was pretty much determined that there was a tree line directly to the south and the east of where the pool was going to be. And from the standpoint of most people in a pool want to get sun, and leaves and pools aren't usually good. So it was always on our radar screen of, hey, why don't we move it to another location where it would have better visibility, better location. So 10 years ago in 2012, we came before the Plan Commission. I think it was amendment number 4. And it was approved to be moved to the other side of the road. There were some other more major significant changes at that time, but it was 10 years ago that it was always moved over to the other side of the road. So, this is a big area, just to make sure everyone understands who's standing in front of here is this pool and the bathhouse are completely within the 40-acre property of Harbor Club. It's been approved by the Homeowners Association. We now have about 65 homeowners in the development. It's been approved. It's ready to go. We're in here to get a permit this summer. With a bunch of the staff transition and changes, it kind of got caught in the gears that we thought everything was fine, and the need to come before the Plan Commission was kind of thrown down to us when we were getting ready to break ground. So we understand certain transitions happen, we're here before you, but, basically, I don't think we're here to talk about the pool location. The pool has always been here. With respect to the screening issue, the original PUD and amendment that came later said on the western property line, we need to have screening. And, it was basically an 80% opacity issue. So, where we went to that is 4 years ago, we were again in front of the Plan Commission on a different amendment. And after working with the city staff, the Rusin family, which is located at the northwest corner of our property, it's not up on that map, they basically wanted a fence. So we went through a whole process. The city staff had the property line staked, went through it, and we had to go through and clear a bunch of shrubs, bushes, et cetera, and put a fence in. And it runs about 150 feet from Baseline Road, partway down the site. At that time, we had additional conversations with city staff. At that time, the person leading the effort was Kate Hosier. She was assistant city manager. She was negotiating with the Rusins, negotiating with our ownership team. And conversations were happening with the other property owner, Mr. Ashen, who owns the property south of the Rusin family. It should be noted that Mr. Ashen purchased the adjacent property that is immediately to the western property line in 2014. This development was approved in 2005. The work started in earnest. All the clearing and everything else happened in 2006, 7, and 8. Mr. Ashen purchased the property after the development had already been put in place. The pool had already been in place. Everything here had completely been approved. The other more important thing I think maybe we're missing here in the whole scheme of thing, that other map, I don't know, Brad, if you can put it up on the screen, that we submitted with our submission this week. It's a map.
This one?
It was the one with the color outline.
This one?
Yes. Coming back. Well, in any event, while he's working on it, we took that drawing, was out of a Plan Commission submission by Mr. Ashen when he was before you multiple times to talk about the yurts. And, you know, just trying to show what we're really talking about here. Mr. Ashen actually lives in a property that is immediately adjacent to Baseline Road. It is approximately 400 yards to the west of our western property line, and his property currently spans over 10 acres. Once again, he bought this additional property after this development was already in, and, you know, I wasn't at the meeting, but I was watching on TV and listening, you know, basically making, you know, some sort of argument that, you know, he's going to move his house or build a new house, put it right next to where our pool is. So he has a huge 10-acre property. He's going to choose to site it right next to us. But basically, on that drawing that I'm trying to have brought up, you know, his property where currently his current house sits is probably 1,500 feet away, and it's to the north of where the pool is going to be. And additionally, back 4 years ago when we were dealing with the city staff and negotiating, Mr. Ashen was involved in those conversations because when we were having that conversation at the time, some of our other members and our management team basically expressly asked the city, hey, we don't want to have to talk about this again. So we're going to put this fence in, we're agreeing, but basically we're done. Mr. Ashen was consulted and involved in the conversation, and he specifically stated that he did not want a fence running the rest of the property line down. He did not want his trees touched. He did not want any of the tree line taken out. A lot of the existing tree line is probably 100-year-old plus trees. You know, more important what's going on here, you know, just from the standpoint of shielding stuff, he likes trees, he wants the trees. Why would he take the tree line down? Another more important factor about where the trees are, if you look at one of the photos that was done there, you know, a lot of those trees were planted 100 years ago, so the root system has now crossed over onto our property, and a significant portion, I haven't measured, but if you look at some of the photos, significant portion of the tree line basically extends over to our property. So what we found out when we were dealing with the Rusins and putting the fence in, when we cleared the site to install the fence, it reduced the opacity significantly. So it was better up to the 5-foot height of the fence, but everything above, you can see through clear to the Rusin household now that you could never see through in the past, even in the middle of winter. So if the Plan Commission somehow wants to address this issue again and ask us to put a fence in, we would be taking down trees, shrubs, things that were, as Commissioner pointed out, Chairman, both natural as well as things that have been planted. We'd be removing the tree line and parts of these limbs, potentially risking the life of some of these trees by cutting into the roots to put the fence in the, you know, hope to increase the opacity, but it would end up reducing the opacity. Did I address your questions?
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you. All right. So any further questions for staff at this time before we open it for public comment?
I do have one quick comment.
Yes.
I did speak with City Manager Hoser today about this issue, and she said the same thing as Mr. Sinar regarding the conversations 4 years ago, specifically that Mr. Ashen was involved in those conversations about a fence and declined to have the fence extended to this portion of the site.
Okay. All right, if there's no further questions for staff or the presenter, I'll open this to public comment. Does anybody wish to comment on this request for a PUD amendment? Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Stuart Chivin-Bergs, and I'm an attorney for Mr. Ashen. Mr. Ashen's address is 270 Baseline Road. Respectfully request that...
Make sure you use the mic.
Thank you very
It'll
much.
move.
Respectfully request, I'll be as brief as I can, but I might have more than 5 minutes of concerns to express, so I don't want to keep anybody here late. My client disputes that he agreed to have a fence only built in that northwest corner. There's been a lot of representations here made about a conversation 4 years ago. He feels strongly that he never agreed to not have that barrier. The commission, I'm sure you all understand, has to review this in the same as an original site plan amendment, or an original site plan. This pool and this bathhouse keep creeping towards the western boundary of this development. keep creeping towards my client's property. Mr. Sinar explained that the condo association has approved it being put far on the west end, away from all their houses, and of course it has. It's a pool. They want parking by it because there's going to be people driving to the pool. It's going to be loud. People are going to be there partying, celebrating in the summer, and they don't want it in the middle of their community where it's a convenient walking distance from all their houses because it's going to be a nuisance to that. And so they have repeatedly, as he explained, inched this pool towards my client's property, ostensibly because people want to get a tan. The commission needs to take into account the effect of this amendment, the effect of this development, not just on the condo association, not just on the people who are asking for it, but on the adjacent properties. It doesn't matter that Mr. Ashen's house now is 400 yards away or whatever Mr. Signer said. Mr. Ashen has a right to use that property and intends to use that property for development. And the commission needs to take into account how this planned development impedes his right to do that, how it erodes the economic value. If you stick a pool full of kids and full of people drinking and full of cars coming and going along Ravine Road, it's going to make noise, right? 80% opacity or not, that noise is going through a fence or through bushes. And my client has the right to be able to develop that, have homes built that don't have the pool that the association doesn't want in its backyard, practically in his backyard. I'm sure the site plan considered, I'm sure the commission considered during the original site plan, the importance of putting the most noisy, cumbersome elements of this development in the middle of the development, away from the boundaries, away from encumbering adjacent properties. So my client just doesn't want it there. All right, put it where it's supposed to go. Put it where they originally proposed it go. People's tans are important, but they're not more important than eroding the economic value of the adjacent property. My client has other concerns. In one of the photos that Brad put up there, the commission could see a big corner of dirt. There's a massive dirt pile at the end of Ravine Road. I'm concerned, my client's concerned, looking at the agenda and the items reviewed by the commission, that there is no plan, there's no explanation of how this is going to affect drainage and stormwater runoff. In fact, the comment is that it's not expected to increase stormwater runoff. How is that possible? How is it possible that a parking lot and a pool isn't going to increase stormwater runoff versus an open field? It absolutely is, and because it's placed so close to the edge of my client's property, it's going to increase the runoff to his property. This property goes back to being an apple orchard that had significant DEQ compliance issues. There's hazardous materials there. Now, my client submitted a FOIA request to the city that we haven't gotten back yet. We'd hope to have it before today so we could express our concerns and have more documentation to provide to the commission, and we're told it could be the end of the month before we see that. And so that's a concern my client has. Right? He wants to develop this property as a beautiful natural property with a ravine through it, and we have a property with historical hazardous contamination. We haven't seen a copy of the DEQ compliance report. One of the things the commission has to take into account under the ordinance is that this site plan, this proposed development, complies with all state and federal law, and in fact complies with the Michigan Protection of Natural Resources Act. We can't know that without an actual examination of how this affects runoff. We ask that the commission be cautious here and not simply grant the site plan amendment, grant approval with some contingencies that will punt that to the construction permit process. We'll punt this down the road. We'd sure like to see and have an opportunity for public comment once these developers has explained how this is actually going to affect the surrounding community. Right? So far, they've just piled the dirt up by my client's property away from their association's homes. Right? They're happy to move their least attractive features to the edge of my client's property. That's been their plan for development, it seems. So we'd ask the commission to be cautious. Ask them to prove, to demonstrate how they're going to address this, how they're going to avoid negative impacts on the adjacent properties. They haven't so far. In fact, the agenda acknowledges that this is not a complete site plan. And one of the conditions is provide a complete site plan that complies with the city ordinance. Well, we'd ask that they just do this to begin with so we can have comment and actually review that site plan. verbatim, the site plan applicant shall receive a soil and erosion sedimentation permit and submit a copy of this permit to the city. Again, that's the piece that we would really like to see before they start digging holes. Mr. Sinar and the agenda has expressed how eager they are to start putting that pool in. They thought this was all a done deal. They didn't think they had to ask the commission about this, and they were surprised to need approval. They would really like to get a shovel in the ground and dig a hole. We don't know that they can dig holes on this property the way they propose. We don't know what effect that's going to have with the hole being so close to my client's property. We'd sure like the opportunity, and we'd ask the commission to be cautious about this. Think about the economic value of the adjacent properties, the safety of the people living adjacent to this property, and just pump the brakes and ask them to make a thorough showing that they're not externalizing all the worst features of this development onto their neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, again.
Hey, Scott, I'd rather we let the other people talk first and then and then have you come back up later. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Sue Duvall. I live at 645 Meadow Drive. I live within the Harbor Club, so I'm here to represent not only myself, but some of the other owners who do support having the pool. My home, in fact, will be closer to the pool than Mr. Ashen's. I am a year-round resident. I do not rent my home at all, so I'm not going to get any economic value other than possibly an increase in the value of my home from having the pool. I've lived in Harbor Club for a little over 3 years now. I've not found it to be noisy. You always have the occasion when you have tourists that you're going to have some noise, but generally does not go late in the night. The association will take the rules for the pool very seriously in that drinking and loud parties will not occur late into the night. In fact, I don't think we would have drinking within the pool area permitted at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Joe Ashen. I live at 270 Baseline Road, South Haven. There's several concerns I have, and it seems like we spent more time on the fence than my biggest concern, which is the noise of the pool next door to me and the parking lot. And Mr. Sinar said, well, my house is 1,000 feet away. Well, I happen to own a big piece of property, but I'm building a house exactly in that spot because that's the most beautiful spot in my property. There's a pine woods there that I actually planted when I was 10 years old, believe it or not, okay? And Mr. Russin owned that property. My family owned property adjacent, and I planted trees on my property, and at the behest of Mr. Russin, because he was back there planting trees, he says, you should call the county, call both Allegan and Van Buren, they'll give you free seedlings. And I went back there the next year, and I planted not only on my grandparents' property, which was adjoining, which I own now, but with Mr. Russin on that property. And today it's amazing to look at. There's these huge pine trees that I planted. The other thing is, Mr. Sinar said that the trees along Ravine Lane are 300 years old. They're not 300 years old. They're not 200 years old. They're not 100 years old. All those trees were put in by the previous owner, Mr. Russin, when they started years ago. The first person who bought that orchard from Mr. Ojahowski, and they were going to develop it, Mr. Russin put trees in. I was there. He told me that you got to make sure to plant your trees a little ways back from the property line, because someday, you don't want them over the property line. You're not going to gain more property. Somebody could chop them down. Mr. Russin planted those trees a little back from the property line. I remember that. So those trees are probably 50 years old, 40 years old. They're a fast-growing pine tree of some sort. So that addresses the tree situation. That addresses the property where I want it. Well, I'll build a house. I want to build a house on that spot. But the other thing is, I'm concerned about the land, and I have been for years. I'm concerned about that land if it's actually safe. if it's actually, because I see them digging up all this dirt, and they pile this huge pile of dirt right on my property line, on my eastern boundary of my property. It's been sitting there for months, and I'm wondering if that dirt could be toxic. I'm wondering. And I've heard things that have led me to believe that possibly it is. And digging up a pool and putting a swimming pool in there and open parking lot, aside from being a problem and a noise to this property I'm trying to preserve with these beautiful old trees, because I do have trees on that property that are in excess of 200 years old, 200 and 300 oaks. I have huge oak trees. I have fox living on that property. I have rabbits and turkeys and deer, unfortunately. They eat up everything. But so it's kind of killing this little piece of South Haven that I'm trying to preserve. Now, Mr. Sinar, he's made himself his development. I'm not that happy about seeing such a thing being built like that, but he got it approved, and he's got the right to have it, and that's fine. Okay? But I don't want his swimming pool and his parking lot on the edge of my property. That's what I don't want. And I've expressed my concerns. And as far as the fence, that me declining to have a fence built, I did say that I wanted a fence. I don't want the trees damaged, and I wanted to be there when it's done. I was out of town. And I wanted to be there to observe to make sure that no trees were damaged. No trees were taken out or damaged. I know those trees are set back. The other thing Mr. Sinar said was if they put in a fence, it would damage the roots to the trees. Well, I planted trees since I was a little kid, and I built stuff where trees are and all that stuff. You're not going to damage the roots of the trees. You drive a stake in to put for the fence. If you hit a root once in a while, it's not going to hurt the tree. Okay, so that's not going to affect the tree at all. So that's not a very good argument. So it just seems like the whole thing, in fact, the whole thing, the way it is, has impacted the quality of life for people in that neighborhood. And, but it's progress. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So unfortunately, as I look around, I don't think any of you were on the planning commission or city council when this PUD first came and was approved, correct?
And what year was that?
2004, 5?
I was not.
Yeah, okay. I was. What I do know is city council made the developer hire a third-party engineer to oversee the infrastructure development. And the DEQ work was also part of that. I do know there's some ornamental fencing out there that cordons off a couple areas because the DEQ did not want that disturbed. So with that lead in, I'll ask Scott to come back up and maybe tell you guys a little bit about the environmental, which was done a long time ago, and I think they hauled off. You had to haul off all the soil, topsoil, didn't you, or a good chunk of it?
50,000 cubic yards, $4 million.
Yeah.
700 independent samples. So it's interesting. This property, the northern part of the property was an apple orchard, and most interesting, maybe Mr. Ashen, who's a longtime resident, the Rusens property, if you look at the old Sidwell maps, was also an apple orchard. So that property has full lead arsenic contamination. I'm very experienced in it since it took us months to go through the process. It's one of the bigger brownfields. We did a $4 million brownfield with the City of South Haven Brownfield Commission, which was approved, but we had hired, Driesing and Associates was the engineer of record for our development and is still the engineer of record. So with respect to the engineering and drainage, I'm going to tick through a bunch of these items. Engineering and drainage, the entire site was engineered, and the city, we paid, because of what happened with Sherman Hills, we basically had an outside engineer sit on a lawn chair when we put the entire infrastructure in for this development. This development has been more closely scrutinized than any development, at least in the last 20 years in the city of South Haven. Where the pool is going is currently a big flat area, And I was actually on the phone with Driesing and Associates this afternoon and our pool consultant to discuss the drainage. There's storm drainage that surrounds this entire site. And in fact, one of the more important things we did when we developed this property is we used the existing storm drainage. Immediately to the south of where the pool is going is the natural wetland and ravine area, and the drainage there will be used. But we have an extensive private storm system that is installed throughout the development. We have a very large retention pond where everything drains into. The development's now been in place for many, many years. We've had no storm drainage issues that would affect adjacent properties. With respect to so back on the environmental. The environmental, we spent months, years, in every single inch of that property. What happened is it was extensively studied with maps, sampling where the hot spots were, and basically we took out between 6 inches to 4 feet down across the 20-acre site to clear all of the contaminated soil. Other than what Mr. Stegman pointed out, there's one area in the ravine where under the DEQ guidelines, you have to either, remove all the soil or basically put soil over the top of it like they did at Baseline Middle School. The issue with trees, and we were very concerned about keeping the trees in the natural areas, if you put soil over the roots of the trees die. So what we came up with is a very unique thing where the other alternative from DEQ is to put a fence around an area and prohibit entry. Therefore, we're able to keep the entire natural ravine rather than wiping it out. So basically where this pool is, in the area of the pool, that entire area was previously remediated, tested repeatedly, reviewed by the Brownfield Commission, reviewed by outside engineers, reviewed by environmental engineers. Our property is clean. With respect to Mr. Ashen's attorney pointed out there was a pile of dirt. That was excavation spoils from some of the houses that are being built in the development, and it was being stockpiled there, and most of it has been removed, and by the end of this week, it's supposed to all be removed. So that got down to the dirt pile. Once again, on drainage and storm runoff, we've been working with city staff. When I say we, the pool contractor has been working with city staff, and as part of the pool permit and drawings, they're very extensive. I'm not sure if the commissioners understand that. In order to get a pool approved, you have 2 levels of approval. One, you have to go to the state pool commission or whatever it's called, that basically runs you through, you've got to go and get everything approved, including all the drainage, electrical, plumbing, et cetera. Second layer over the top, once that is approved by the state, you work with City of South Haven staff, you go through drainage, et cetera, normal building permit things all have to be approved by staff. So we're in the middle of that process. We've been going through that, and whatever the staff tells us from a drainage standpoint, we will deal with. With respect to the comment about the site plan, this site plan was approved, 17 years ago. So from the standpoint, I think Ms. Brad pointed out in some of the things, we're not here to get site plan approval. I thought the reason we're here, both based on what we were told by staff as well as at the last meeting, is we're talking about we have to be in front of the commission because we technically need to remove those 4 lots. That's what the issue is here. We're not really talking about the location of the pool, the siting of the pool, et cetera. We're here basically because we have to remove the lots. With respect to the comment that we're putting the pool next to Mr. Ashen's property because it's like our backyard or the worst place, the pool is actually fairly centrally located with respect to the overall site. The pool is basically in the same place, but it used to sit, it was just a diagram underneath the clubhouse. What we did is, given the fact that we have a very large development and we already have 60 homes and more under construction, we needed a larger pool to accommodate the needs of our community. We already have another pool in the community down at the marina, and that pool is overcrowded, so we need this other pool. So I think we're getting off into a bunch of tangents. I'm trying to address them all, but I thought we were here to talk about shielding and basically shielding and removing these lots. If the Plan Commission wants us to put a fence up, fine, we'll extend the existing fence. That's not a deal breaker or anything for us. But the other thing is, I think we gave some facts and figures you see in the email. The western edge of the pool is about 140 feet from the property line. From the edge of the property line, we're 140 feet away. that's pretty far. Another big thing is the pool house, the bathhouse in the building is immediately west of the pool. It's scheduled to be wider than the pool and will act as a very large shield to the direct west of the property. So that's like an incremental benefit of having that there. With respect to the parking lot issue, this pool is only to be used by members of the community, so we anticipate that most people will be walking from their homes in the community. It's fairly centrally located to the vast majority of the homes. So this is not going to be an active parking lot. This is not a retail location. This is not a public pool. This is, some people may want to drive up there. And the other thing is, we'll be in front of you in the coming months, because as we move into the next phase of our development, we're required to work with city staff and come back to deal with the parking. When we were in front of the commission 4 years ago doing some amendments, at that point in time, city staff required us, we worked with Nick, to come up with a future parking area so that we would have, it was always designed to have overflow parking, and it's going to be directly in this area. And that's another one of the reasons why we're removing those 4 lots, because that's in the area where the future parking area is supposed to be. But let me stress once again, overflow parking. Some of the areas are more dense. The city staff wanted overflow parking so that the streets are not crowded. With respect, once again, to the soil erosion, this site is fairly flat. We'll take normal things. I don't think there's anything additional to be done other than working with city staff to make sure we follow the rules. When this development was developed, we worked with the Van Buren County Drain Commission, with DEQ, with city staff. There was soil erosion put up all around the site. There were separate, little ponds to collect soot. It was very closely supervised. So this is literally digging a pool and putting in a bathhouse, a slab-on-grade thing. It's not going to cause soil erosion. It's not, it's not going to cause anything that's going to affect any property outside of this development. Any other questions?
Just hang on a minute. Brad, what opacity on this was, what, 80%?
80%.
So you get 80% by having a full fence or like evergreens, right?
Yes, in the conditions that were approved by council 15, 20 years ago, whenever this was approved, 2005, it was 80% opacity, whether it's a structure or natural vegetation.
Okay.
One last thing I guess I want to do is, I'm not sure how our development can, and putting a pool in can erode economic development of adjacent parcel. I'm really, I'm just kind of swatting it away because there's no basis for that. I don't understand this. Our development is very successful. The property, we have very high levels of the master deed and bylaws have lots of covenants and restrictions where, we've always been trying to maintain a very high level of, the way the community looks, the way the things are built. We have a very active homeowners association that is involved very intimately in everything going on out here. And all we've seen is enhancement of value of all the property within the development around. So I'm not sure how adding a pool to our development 150 feet away from a 10-acre property can diminish the value. But once again, Mr. Ashen chose to purchase that property knowing the pool was going to be located here. We're not inching it further over. We just came up with a final design plan and put it in place. It's appropriate for what we need in our development of 210 homes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, not from me. And you guys?
Not a question.
Thank you.
No. Okay, which direction you want to go with this?
Am I permitted to say anything else, or is that, and I can keep it extremely brief?
I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's more than I need.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think that the Planning Commission reviews changes to the bylaws of the condo association. I don't think the Planning Commission reviews the pool policy. So if the explanation from the condo association is, oh, we'll have rules, people won't be drinking at the pool, how long is that going to last? Again, it's unclear to me why that pool can't be located closer to the interior as it was originally planned to. Mr. Senar has repeatedly said we're not moving the pool. Their application is for an amended site plan that moves the pool. It moves it, and it removes a line of houses that would have been between my client's property and the pool. So I don't understand the downplaying of the noise at the pool. And again, it's not a protection for my client. He's not on the condo association board. He can't he can't voice opposition to a change in the pool policy that allows visitors, or a change in the pool policy that allows more drinking or more noise. So he relies on this commission to take into account the things in the ordinance and prevent that from encumbering neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think the way to look at this is, this was already approved by the prior planning commission meeting, where a lot of us weren't here, correct? It was a different board at the time. But I do think the one thing we can do is be very specific on screening requirements, and even though the adjacent property is more of in a natural state, maybe think about it that, let's say the natural state was gone and there were houses in there, would you require the developer to screen it? Or if that property that is natural is to be developed, would you require that person to do the screening, or both? But either way, you probably need a screening to be involved with this building. And I think that's about the limit of.
I agree with you, Tim. And I've listened to the discussion, and it all makes sense, but it comes down to me to one central issue. We have a requirement, I believe. It is a requirement that there's 80% opacity requirement. My issue is that burden should fall on the developer, not the owner of the property adjacent to it. The fact that those trees happen to provide that 80% opacity has nothing to do with meeting the ordinance. The ordinance requires the developer to provide the 80% opacity. And that's where I'm not hearing the remedy being offered.
And I know personally, I mean, I look at the amount here between, on the pool, and I put in a pool in a residential area, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the setback on my pool was, but it certainly wasn't 70 feet to the property line. That's the pool shed. It's over 100 feet from the property line. I mean, if this was a pool in any other area, I'm still not sure what the issue is with noise and problems. It's a pool, and it's in a development. I think having.
We do have a noise ordinance.
And, well, and then they have to abide by that. I mean, certainly drinking in the pool area, I mean, we've got a pool in our condo association. You need to rethink that. There's nothing wrong with it. But,
Plastic containers only.
yeah, I would definitely think that the screening portion would be on the developer, and I think that's about all we could do. Otherwise, you know, they are moving it, is an amendment to the PUD, and I don't see any issues with that at all.
Can I ask a question? So, according to city staff, Mr. Ashton was given this opportunity before and turned it down. Does he-
Well, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Or do- I mean,
and even if that's the case, to me, he's a property owner. He gets to change his mind.
Yeah.
You know, he owns 10 acres, where his house is today. Yeah,
Does that
maybe
fall
tomorrow
back
I
on
want
the
it somewhere different. Maybe I didn't want a fence back then, maybe I do now. I mean,
But that falls back on the developer then, when he changes
I
his
don't
mind.
think we even need to go there.
Hmm.
The ordinance, the permit, the PUD agreement says the developer must provide 80% opacity, not the property owner adjacent. This has nothing to do with Mr. Ashton at this point.
Okay.
To grant this special use, to grant this exception, they just need to follow the ordinance that they agreed to in the original PUD, and that is put up an 80% opacity screen, however you do it. However you do it. I think all the other issues are
They're moot points at this point.
I just recall.
outside
from-
our prevail.
I recall from our last meeting, we were just concerned about where the property line began. And ended it, I think we've figured that out. And the only issue left, I believe, is the 80% opacity that the developer has to provide.
Yeah. The developer obviously has a sliver of land along that road, or the lane, that can be planted.
Correct.
Because our concern last time around was the road was right at the edge of the property, and there was nowhere to put any landscaping.
Yeah.
And that's not the case that we found out, so. All right.
Go to Ireland, they can figure that out for you. You only need this much shoulder.
Yeah. Okay, so is there any other discussion, or can somebody make a motion?
Hey, Tim, I'm clear on the motion.
Okay.
Does the planning commission approve the proposed PUD amendment, or do we recommend approval to the city council?
It's always a recommendation of approval to the city council.
Okay.
Everything we do here is a recommendation.
All right, I just wanted to make sure I was
Just
clear on
about
that.
everything. Yeah. And I'll give you some time if you need it. Who's going to make the motion?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
I-
I'll move that the planning commission recommend to the city council approval of the proposed Harbor Club PUD Amendment 5, including the 6 conditions contained in the staff report, and an additional 7, that the opacity, is that the right word? Of 80% be provided the entire length of depth of the property.
Ravine Lane.
Along Ravine Lane.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Is there support?
just a clarification.
Well, hang on. Is there support?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Go ahead, Clark.
I thought I had 1 to 5 recommendations.
There's 2 ones there.
They're 2 number 1s.
Mistype.
2 number 1s, okay.
That's just to see if we can.
I fell in the same trap.
I count differently, but good, good.
Any other discussion? Brad, you clear? Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Hanny,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. Okay. Next up, we'll be moving to new business. Item number 9, special land use application 205 Broadway Street.
Yes, Broadway Building LLC has submitted a special land use permit application under Section 801, which is to create an electric low-speed vehicle rental and dealership location here at the corner of Conger, Broadway, and Dykeman, so at 205 Broadway. And the applicant is here to speak about that. To give you a little background about the property, it's an irregularly shaped lot. It has about 90 feet of accessible frontage that is on Broadway Street itself. It also contains 132 feet of frontage along Conger Street. However, many of you may know that there is no direct access going onto Conger Street because there's actually a retaining wall built up there because the hill goes down towards the river. So that just gives you a little physical background. The property is located in the B2 General Business District. And again, vehicle dealerships are permitted by special land use only in the B2 district.
Okay, any questions for Brad?
I guess the only question has to do with this overview for the parking on this particular piece. 3, 4, 5, 6. So it appears to be, we've got about 7 spots in the front of the building and 4 spots in the back of the building, or 3 spots in the back of the building. I'm not even, could potentially there be a couple more spots along Conger Street, maybe parallel park on that property?
We would have to see a plan to see exactly
Okay.
how they do it, but yes, if they could fit them in, I'm sure they could be squeezed in there if they had enough room. That would be
Okay.
something that I would look at, and Mike Dopp would also look at as well.
And you said this particular piece of property felt like it needed 8 parking spaces total as a minimum?
From the overall gross floor area, that would require a maximum of 7 spaces.
Okay.
So, and you would classify typically that they may require a loading space as well. That may be where you get your eighth space. However, it's not a requirement, but it's
Okay.
something that I think you should discuss with the
Okay.
the applicant.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I believe, and I'm having trouble finding it in the notes here, but there was mention of some concern about battery storage on site. Was that correct?
It was something I wasn't necessarily sure about, and I think that's something that you need to ask the applicant about with the process, what type of operation is going to be done there, if there's any repair or anything like that that's going to be carried on site. The question was specifically related to hazardous materials, and that was just something that came into mind of potentially having on site. But again, I am not sure if that is something that will be done, and that would be something that you could address the applicant about.
Yeah, the other question that came to mind when I read that, Brad, is I'm assuming they're going to sell both gas and electric golf carts.
From what I understand, it's electric only.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Brad or staff? No?
There was an issue, I think we were talking about lighting, that there was something about lighting that.
It's got to comply with section 1710.
Okay.
Yes, and with regards to lighting and signage and things like that, in a typical site plan, when we do look at these sorts of things, the existing lighting that is on the building is exterior. It's mounted on the building, and it points out towards the parking lot. It's there. I just, when we go through this, it's something that I think the applicant isn't far enough along yet to figure out exactly what's going to, how it's going to be done, if it's something that's going to be there. If it is something that they put in and the lighting is going to be installed, it does have to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. So anything that would come into, whether it be signage, lighting, parking, things like that, it would all have to meet the zoning ordinance requirements.
Okay. No
One
further
more
questions
question,
for
Brad.
Oh,
The parking spaces that we're talking about, are they parking spaces for employees and customers, or are they parking spaces to put product?
Well, that's another thing that you should probably ask as well. The spaces that are required are for customers/employees. So again, I'm not sure exactly what type of product will be stored on site, where it would be stored. That's something that you probably find more out but from the applicant themselves.
Yeah,
that is the question.
Well, I mean, I love the look of the representation of the building. That's very attractive. It's really nice. But I do note that there's one in the showroom and one sitting outside. So again, if we're talking 8 parking spaces, how are they planning to exhibit their carts outside without infringing on those 8 parking spaces?
Well, we're going to find out. Any other questions for Brad? All right, if the applicant would come forward, please.
Commissioners, good evening.
Your name, please?
My name is Joe Allen, and I am a St. Joe resident, a small business owner there for the last 13 years. I operate Scooter Joe's Wheel and Water Rentals. 3 years ago, I also started another business there called Gojo Rentals, which are LSV rentals. For those who don't know what the acronym LSV stands for, it stands for low-speed vehicle. That's a legal definition of a vehicle in Michigan. They look similar to golf carts, of course, as you're probably aware. But we chose them to start because they have more safety features for the general public, including seat belts, lights, blinkers, high brake light. They now come with rear view cameras, believe it or not, because that's a standard for just all vehicles, effectively. They're registered in the state of Michigan as a vehicle. They're plated, so they can easily be identified as an LSV versus a golf cart. And you folks are probably familiar with the golf cart scenario here. Anthony can add some detail there.
Yeah, and you're familiar with our requirements in town,
Yes.
correct?
Yep. Now, an LSV is, of course, a legal vehicle on Michigan roads. There's one difference that I would note between these and golf carts, and that is they're allowed to operate on a 35-mile-an-hour road versus a 30. Okay, so that opens them up, at least here in South Haven, to just a couple of more, spaces of road, essentially. As you know, we're here to request a special use permit for the building. We're going to be a dealer for Tomberlin. Tomberlin is the leading manufacturer of LSVs in the United States. We had a few of them up here actually this last summer as sort of a test, but they're quite slick looking. And in fact, I think the facade photo there has maybe a rendition of one of the Tomberlin models that we have down in St. Joe, effectively. Relative to use, you know, when people hear dealership, of course, they think of an auto dealership. So we think this is really focused on a showroom scenario. Commissioner, is it Neese? Sorry. Asked about some other uses there. We heard batteries as well. So they're electric. We're not selling gas models. We think electric is the future, and we want to stick with that. As far as vehicles on site, I think on balance, we would be seeing 1 to 2 from a showroom standpoint. We have other facilities. I've got storage in St. Joe, and we've got storage up here as well. And, you know, we would not expect a lot of them sitting there just because we expect to sell them. So once they're sold, they're off-site. We can deliver, of course, to, you know, anybody who wants them delivered. So you might find customers that would pick them up, you know, right downtown here, but, you know, many people like them delivered no matter what. There's a question about parking, and I think the total count that we had on the initial form here was 11 total. And that would be a combination. This is probably going to have a couple of employees, depending on the time of day and the time of year. And of course, customers, you know, that come in, which would be transient in nature. What other questions can we answer?
Mike, I know you'll have a couple of the same questions for a more specific answer, I'm sure, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think you addressed the sales part, but I also saw that you intend to rent vehicles. Would those rental vehicles be sitting in those parking spaces?
They would, I suppose. The number of rentals would vary, and typically, you know, they might sit there overnight, of course. You know, this is a pretty active market up here. So again, we don't expect like, you know, 20 vehicles sitting there at any time. And we have other locations here to position equipment as well. This is primarily focused on the dealership aspect because we think these vehicles in general are becoming more popular, you know, throughout the country actually. And of course, you know, South Haven, you know, led the way with approving regular golf carts, which we think are fine, but LSVs are a safer option, and we're excited about offering those.
Sure. That's an exciting business. And again, I'm not asking these questions to try and place any burdens on your business, but again, if the ordinance requires 8 spaces for customers and employees,
Yep.
and we've got to make sure that you've made.
And we'd have to abide by that.
Yeah, correct.
Obviously. Sure, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Guess I do have a question on the low-speed vehicles. Now, are you only going to be selling these low-speed vehicles? You won't be doing any golf cars, traditional golf cars?
Golf carts?
Well,
Or golf cars, or?
I call them golf cars because I used to know a golf car dealership for Yamaha, and they had, you know, a bunch of them in Florida and a bunch of them up here, and they said we could actually call them golf cars, not golf carts. But I guess a golf cart to help out. I mean, the way I understand that, because I did talk to City Hall a while back, this vehicle is excluded from the ordinance, and that you can drive 365 days a year, maybe not today, or would want it to, but you can extend beyond that because it is a licensed vehicle with the state of Michigan, and you can go 35 miles an hour. And I've seen these, they're pretty sharp. I mean, it's a Tesla, just doesn't drive itself.
Don't be surprised if they do something later.
Yeah, but I think one of the major concerns that I have is that we do have enough parking for people. We just don't drive by one day and see 20 of them there, and there really isn't any parking spaces. And, you know, the goal is within the business area to know, well, where is the product and where do we have spots for employees and customers.
Right.
And I think that's the big one, is trying to understand where the product's going to be. And I'm sure you're going to have times when a couple extra while people are picking up. Just need to know that. I mean, that was kind of the goal.
So, and, hello, excuse me,
Name,
sir.
please.
I got to get in the microphone. Hello, my name's Anthony. I live at 348 Baseline. I am a partner with Joe, attempting to take on this venture of LSV dealership. So to elaborate a little bit on overall operations, or the question on rentals, you know, obviously we've been in the business of renting these for a few years. I also own a company that does do golf cart rentals here in town. So I think portions on how we've shifted to LSV. One, I would like to make the comment that we're just trying to make your guys' life easier, because I keep seeing that Baseline Road pop back on your agenda every 5 or 6 months. So with these, you wouldn't have to adjust Baseline Road. But within the rentals, and why we would tell you that there are not going to be a lot of carts placed there. So on the rental side, as we've had in the last 4 years, majority of our rentals are booked in advance, and that helps us fluctuate with inventory control. You know, at these carts, I mean, they range brand new from 10,000 up to 30,000, unless you get into really customizing. So our intentions are to have a fleet of 100 sitting there. One, it's not really the way we can afford to do things. The other is we don't have the space. Predominantly, what we want to use this location as is for the showroom dealership. With backlog from the manufacturer, and again, we all know this could change. We're in a different time right now with pandemic, manufacturing, supplying. We do have a little bit of coordination with the manufacturers. They're, you know, takes about 6 months to get an order. We just placed an order for 18. That is split between sales and for rentals. So in theory, even if we were to sell them all before they arrive, it would take another 6 months to get another order. We don't intend to carry that kind of inventory at the place. Again, there's no space, and the other one, we don't want to tie up that kind of funds. A large market for this is, we have a stock model, being that there's so many different options for each individual buyer. And let's face it, this is kind of a hobby type purchase. This isn't every single person out there, one, can afford it, and two, you know, getting to the taste of the buyer. We intend to have you come into the showroom, you select and customize the cart the way you want it. It drop ships from the manufacturer to your residence, or as Joe had it described, we have a couple of buildings in which where our service department will be located is off-site. So in the case somebody were to buy from us and it has to arrive at our facility, our shipping address is not 205 Broadway. That's where we would commission, make any changes, and then we would deliver to a residence. So that is how we know we're not going to have all the stock on the floor. From rentals, I know I briefly said it, where they do book in advance. We have, with where our golf cart location is, we're currently in the B3 zoning. So our first go at this, prior to getting all the zoning information for Brad, was to operate the dealership at our other locations. But being that we're in B3 waterfront, we could not do that, but our intentions are to remain. The majority of our rental business would stay off-site at our locations in the B3. So you could walk into the location, you could rent a cart if there was one available, but we would then deliver it. A couple reasons for that. Again, one, we're talking about parking size, et cetera. The other, I'm sure you guys have all been here, driven by that building several times. We really don't want to get into you getting in the cart, driving out from that corner, heading back to your property and dealing with, how do you get there? You got to park your car, rent our cart, leave your car. We're not really going to be set up for that type of business. But the main reason why we don't intend to do it is we hit May and I don't even have any inventory left for June, July, and August. We're fortunate enough that these things are booked out to the tourist industry long before they arrive in South Haven. I think I answered some of that, right? Oh, and then on batteries, I think overall, with some questions that may be coming, I'd hate to say we're not prepared for some of that. Just one factor I'd just like to bring up so you guys know why we may not have some answers is we're in the purchasing process. We've done a deposit, et cetera, et cetera. We have a contingency on purchasing this building based on an approval from the Planning Commission. So in overall operations, you know, we definitely have an outline. I mean, we're ready to go to get this open by May if we were allowed to be approved and go forward. But certain things like stocking batteries, I guess we may have overlooked that. I would like to tell you, we probably would have batteries. It would make sense as an adjunct. I guess if at the end of the approval, if there was a reason we couldn't have batteries, I don't think anybody said that, but if there was, you know, again, we have alternate locations and we could do drop shipping. We're not necessarily having to put those there.
I may have misunderstood you, but did you say that the service facilities would not be at this site?
Well, let me add to that.
Yeah.
So these are electric carts.
Right.
There's very little to go wrong with them. Batteries is not one of them, to be honest with you. I mean, you charge these up after use, and, you know, over time, they start to degrade, of course, like any battery. But again, that type of situation where you're replacing an entire, you know, pack of batteries is unlikely to happen there. I mean, it would be much easier to actually go to a person's home or whatever to actually make that swap. There would be some minor stuff perhaps, but I can't think of anything that would really be like a service station type of scenario here.
Again, we're all learning too, but
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is we're not going to see a service bay with a lift.
There is not a service bay with the lifts, and the reason why we have designed our service, again, I agree with what Joe had said, we don't anticipate a lot of service anyways. I don't think we'll make it long in selling a product if everyone in town says, you got to get it worked on. But we have a centrally located building in St. Joe, Michigan that would work for the St. Joe location as well as the South Haven. That is a traditional service department with bays, et cetera. So-
And I think what Mike's trying to get at is there's certain zoning allows combustibles and flammables, and some don't, so.
And then I would add to that, there will be no gas, no oil, none of those things on the.
I mean, a better example might be installing like a stereo thing up at the top or something like that, as opposed to like, you know, swapping out batteries. Recharging could of course be part of this as a service, but.
That would be like a service station then, correct?
Well,
You have a charging facility.
Charging facility?
If you're setting up charging stations for vehicles to pull in and charge, that's the new age gas station, correct?
Well,
that would be correct. On an LSV, it is a standard 110 outlet.
Yeah.
It's an extension cord. So what Joe would be referencing, if there was a need, we potentially would offer that. Again, it's not a
But that
charging
would-
station.
That would
It's-
probably be done inside, actually.
Yeah, it's a wall plug.
Yeah.
It's not a Tesla.
All right, any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have some questions about the site, if we could
Okay,
get
Larry.
back to the site plan.
Good idea.
Signage, you're going to have signs to advertise your location. What are your plans?
There is a pole sign at the moment,
Mhm.
so we will probably redo that. I don't think we're going to actually change a sign, and then there's currently a rather large vinyl awning around the building, wrapped around the building,
Mhm.
and that would be updated as well, you know, relative to signage. And then, you know, again, the city, of course, has signage ordinance, and everything would have to fall within that.
Okay. Lighting was mentioned earlier. You have any plans where you're headed with any of that? Other than we will enforce the ordinance?
Yeah, I would say, in all our designs, again, it's just, other than doing just a regular building inspection in which we noticed, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the building, but underneath the awning, there are lights on the exterior that point down, not out into the parking lot. We intend to repair those, which is more than likely a change of bulbs, maybe, you know, some of the sockets, they're tube bulbs. The sign light on the road, we haven't been able to test that. I'm under the assumption if you turn it on, it works. I've been here 10 years. I've never actually seen that light on, so I'm not sure. But outside of fixing that, no modification to lights at this point. Obviously, if we did, we would probably be coming back in front of you guys with more changes, which potentially could be with the building. But our original design is, I don't want to say basic, but cost-effective upgrades to the exterior, more in paint, fixing the canvas awning, again, the down below lights, probably adding potted plants and things, again, I want to say on the minimal side in the beginning.
I mean, there would be security, lighting as well, obviously, during off hours. So that would include the rear parking area that's back there as well.
Okay, and I don't know if there is a light back there.
Yeah, I don't think there is, but we would, again, we'll get into the lighting ordinance here, I guess, in more detail, but we have to, step at a time here to get use permit first to make sure that we're.
Okay. We do have some requirements for screening adjacent property, and obviously the street in front is nothing you can deal with, and to the south and to the north, you've got the elevation differences, nothing to deal with there. To the east, there's the slab in the back there where the parking is.
Yep.
Where that slab ends to the east edge of that slab, is that the property line?
It's just slightly beyond that, and that goes down basically to the property behind us.
Yeah.
And there's a section of that is partially within the footprint of the property perimeter. And I think that's a warehouse or something down below there that.
Yeah. I just, in looking at that site, I don't see where there's much room for any landscaping or buffering at all there, so
When I seen it in the packet, I was going to ask.
I just want to make sure that you're aware we do have that requirement, but for my fellow commissioners, in my opinion, there just isn't much can be done.
They make
with that,
core
so-
drills every day where you can put posts right in concrete.
Oh, yeah. I've got one of them.
All right. Any further questions, Larry?
No, that covers everything.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody from the public like to comment on this special land use application for 205 Broadway Street? No, I don't. Why doesn't it say that on my agenda?
It's a test.
Oh, blame Griffin.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we open the public hearing for the special land use on 205 Broadway.
Second.
Been moved and supported to open public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we have a public hearing open for 205 Broadway Street. Does anybody wish to speak on this? Guess not.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the public hearing for 205 Broadway.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing for 205 Broadway Street. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Another motion?
I'll take a swing at it.
Okay.
Yeah. The Planning Commission approves with conditions the special land use permit conditions for off-street parking, which include off-street parking, signage, landscaping, or screening and lighting for,
You can just refer to, if you want.
refer to the staff recommendations 1 through 4.
I'll second.
Okay, so we might need just a touch of discussion on this one for at least what, number 3, Larry?
Yeah. I don't see any reason to include condition 3 at all.
So you'd move to strike 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there support?
I'll
move to amend the motion to strike 3.
And I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
amendment.
been moved and supported to strike the item 3 landscaping or screening recommendation. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So the motion stands as amended, with including items 1, 2, and 4. Everybody clear understanding of the motion made? All right. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do another roll call.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Hanny,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. All right, that brings us to new business, item 10. It's almost 9 o'clock. Does anybody want to take a 5-minute recess, or should we keep going and say 9:30? I'll ask the same question.
Let's go.
Let's go?
Moving.
Okay. Item 10, new business, special land use application 412 through 460 Blue Star Highway, Countryside Motors, and we'll be doing another public hearing. Okay, Brad?
Okay, Countryside Motors has applied for a special land use application for 2 overflow lots expansion for their motor dealership in the B2 district on Blue Star Highway. The reason being, that motor vehicle dealerships are permitted only by special land use in a zoning district. Now, we're all aware that the original Countryside Motors was established decades ago, and that one is what we would classify as a legal nonconforming. However, if the applicant would like to expand outside of that footprint, they would have to receive a special land use application to do so. If you all look in the packets that were included tonight, I did include an email correspondence from the city engineer. There was a concern about possible stormwater runoff from that. The applicant and the city engineer did do a site visit, and he has supplied a map with a drainage ditch that is located on site, and he provided his comments there that he felt that the stormwater drainage was sufficient for what the applicant was seeking to do on the property. So that was something in my initial memo that I had noted, and it came in after, so that's why it was included in the packet. Again, the reason being for this is, the operation of a business without the special land use application would cause a zoning code enforcement issue. So that's the reason why we're here, is to help the applicant make sure that he's in compliance with the zoning code and work towards receiving that.
Okay, well introduced. Any direct questions for Brad?
Yeah, Brad, I just want to verify that this area here is in fact B2 zoned.
It is B2.
And the special use is because the dealership is not included in a B2.
It is. It's a special use.
By
only, and,
special
yep,
use.
You
yeah.
have it correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, that's it.
Anybody else?
Brad, so the staff recommendation is was initially written that we were going to table this application?
Correct,
for
and
the
it
review,
was-
But is this the additional, you've got enough information now that you don't think we need
Correct.
to table it? Okay.
Yes, and that is why I included it in there. As I mentioned, when the packet initially went out, it was something that we didn't have in the packet at the time. However, the city engineer did contact me and notify me that the applicant and himself did do a site visit and walk through that and go through the process. And in that email, he recommended his comments on there of that he thinks that it is okay.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to come up and say anything? You don't have to. If you do, fine. If not, we have your application.
I think Brad explained it very well. At 412, my father and I bought that property in 1984 and sold vehicles there for 20 years. Then we sold it, and I rented it back and put vehicles back there again. And now I'm renting it again from the Morris family, and vehicles are there again. And then on the other side of the Little Oscar's T-shirt shop is owned by the Zuckermans, and that's the new thing that kind of got this started. That a special use permit was needed to put vehicles there. And there was a little opposition from local neighbors. You may hear that in a moment, but I thought I'd kind of walk my way through it with them. And drainage was an issue, but I'm not changing that. So I think that's all kind of been explained by the city engineer also. It's in his graces, I guess, but I'm just trying to expand, that's all. And do more in the community as I've done for many, many years.
Okay.
If there's any questions?
Anybody have any questions? If we do, I can bring you back up.
All right, very good.
Okay. Thank you. All right. What do you say we open a public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and supported to open public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Anybody like to speak on this topic, please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Chris Martin. I live at 413 Jones. My entire backyard backs up to the property that we are discussing this evening. I've lived in that property since 1982, so that was prior to, I remember Mr. Beckwith buying the property. I have lived there while he has sold cars numerous times. However, this evening, I feel that we've got the cart before the horse. We're talking about Mr. Beckwith using the property as to sell cars. However, I'm not sure if the Planning Commission is aware of all of the fill that was brought in to change the topography of the land. I was already sitting quite a bit lower than the property. It's higher out by Blue Star, and then there used to be like a decline, and there was like a field that would go to the drainage ditch. I don't know, can I show pictures, or is that not allowed?
You can give them to Brad.
Can I? Okay. So here's all the pictures of Constance coming in, bringing in tons and tons of fill this summer. This happened on June 9th, and we're discussing permits and things at this time when this happened in the spring. I stopped the code officer. He told me that the city had nothing to do with this. So I've been trying to get answers from people from the city. I haven't been able to get any. My property is now about 4 to 6 feet below all the fill that they brought in. They put sand, and then there's like crushed asphalt on top of it. So now that they're plowing snow, all of this asphalt is being pushed into the ditch. The drainage ditch is a right-of-way for the city. Sorry. The city has not been taking care of the drainage ditch. My husband worked for the city for 30 years, retired. He passed away 4 years ago. Since he passed away, no one's been taking care of the ditch. He was the only one that took care of that. If that ditch starts filling up with all of this sand and asphalt remnants and everything else, which it's already starting to erode, because the only thing they put up as a retaining wall was that black plastic, which has already failed in probably a third of the area, and that sand is starting now to filter down. The trucks are sitting right on the edge. I also have pictures of the trucks sitting above my 6-foot fence. I have a 6-foot fence, I have a pool, I have a koi pond, and we put a fence up. However, there are people, you can see people's shoes. Now, if I sit in my backyard, there are people walking like on the top of my fence. I also have pictures of that. All of the car lights come into my house. I don't know if car dealerships aren't like an 8-hour-a-day job. It's 24/7, 365. There are people who decide to come and look at vehicles at 3 o'clock in the morning with flashlights. When he sold cars back there before, we would have to call the police because there would be people back there taking hubcaps or whatever. And there's just so many things. So I guess I'm getting off from the land. I don't understand why we're talking about him using the land when, did anybody receive any kind, was the city aware that the topography had changed like this? Is anybody aware that all of this fill was brought in and now all of our properties are sitting, like 6 feet lower than his? And all we have is this little drainage ditch that no one takes care of that's filling up with sand and asphalt. And again, then I can go into all of the problems with having, car dealerships back there with the lights and the sound and all of that. My fence does me no good. My 6-foot fence does nothing. And you'll be able to see that from the picture. So I guess I'm really confused about the time frame or how we're doing this, why we're talking about having the cars when why was that allowed? Why was all this dirt allowed to be brought in and change the whole lay of the land? I didn't think that was allowed in the city, but, so that's all. Thank you. Please take time to look at the pics.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, once again. My name is still Richard Onson. I still live at 459 Jones Avenue. My residence is adjacent to the 460 Blue Star address in tonight's request. And I'd just like to go back to your original opening. I think you simply misspoke when you were talking about 412 through 460. And the reason I'm dancing on the head of that needle is that would then somehow include this Little Oscar's property, the T-shirt shop.
Okay,
I
let's
believe-
clear.
I believe the
Just hold on a
letter-
second. We'll reserve your time. Brad, if you'll, I'm just reading what I have in item 10.
Yeah, two parcels, 412 and 460.
Okay, 412 and 460.
Okay.
Not through. Yeah, if I said through,
And I
that
don't
was
have
my
to edit
mistake.
I don't have to edit my commentary then. Obviously, as a residential neighbor with commercial property, it's understood that the dynamics are different than an entirely residential neighborhood. It just goes with the terrain. And commercial neighborhoods change far more readily with the times, and this commercial corridor is no different. There's only 2 buildings still in this corridor from my childhood, and one of them is Jerry's.
Clear, I do not own those properties.
Yes, well, no, yeah, one of them is Jerry's countryside location. He doesn't own either of these properties that are up for review. Anyway, I still understand and I appreciate the right of any commercial property owner to seek to use the property in pursuit of their own visions. And likewise, I seek to preserve my own interests at the same time. My initial views are somewhat similar to Chris's in regards to the topography, where the highway is higher than our properties are. And like she has a 6-foot fence, and it's significantly compromised by the difference in the elevation. I also have a 6-foot fence, and depending on where somebody might be standing, I could see them from, somebody my height, I can see them from the shoulders up. The closer they get in, the topography of the 460 property slopes downhill. So, no, if they're 6 foot like me, I wouldn't see them. But all that said, the Blue Star property has been vacant since the demolition of the former Dale's Discount Building. And it wasn't of any great scenic value, but it proved to be an excellent storm barrier. And in its absence, the properties adjacent to that are regularly saturated even during a moderate rainstorm. That lot is not developed, and it's effectively a big sponge. It's simply grown over with grasses. And in the cases of heavy rainstorms, you'll have seepage coming out of that property for 3 days yet. In a moderate rainstorm, we have water flowing through our backyards on a regular basis. And in a heavy rainstorm, it's quite often in our basements. The general public doesn't see that because it's all in our backyards and our basements. In its vacant form, I didn't consider it ever to be reasonable or realistic to expect anybody to mitigate that drainage without developing the site. Now that it's going to be in use, I'm firmly convinced that runoff is going to continue. The grass itself is not going to stand up forever, so that's going to require some kind of paving, whether it's gravel or some such. That's just going to accelerate this runoff to us. So whatever the future use of the site might be, storm drainage simply has to be focused on because it's a problem. It's an existing problem for us already. One minute, okay. Additionally, there's this newly proposed use for 460 Blue Star creates a safety concern that's not exclusive to Jones Avenue residents only. This past September, vehicles were briefly displayed in a manner on this lot that obstructed the view of southbound highway traffic for anybody who would be stopping at the stop sign at Superior and Blue Star Highway. I went to the city police station, filed a parking complaint because it was an accident waiting to happen, and the vehicles were removed in very short order. But any similar positioning of those vehicles is just an accident waiting to happen. As I've mentioned, our privacy, or the privacy of our 6-foot borders is compromised just by the topography. So in addition to drainage, I'd strongly request that you consider the 80% opacity type bordering, because its future growth then can at least help our neighboring privacy, which is already intruded on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Anyone else?
I'm Susie Catherman. I live at 455 Jones Avenue. And my question is, and I don't know the process, but I don't understand why the owner of the property is not the one filing for permits. He just rents the property. He doesn't own the property at 460 either. So I guess I don't understand why the owners of the property are not the ones taking responsibility.
I can probably answer that.
Okay.
I don't know what their agreement is.
Well, the agreement is that they said it's okay if he does everything and follows all the rules.
No, what I'm telling you is I don't know what the agreement he made between him and his landlord are. His landlord probably says you can make improvements and you have to go through the application process.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean the landowner has to.
Okay, well, regardless, he's done things without permission, and then it's more or less asking forgiveness instead of asking for permission. He parked the cars on the corner, and when he got caught, then he moved them. So
But we're here now.
I know, I understand that, and I appreciate that, too. But it's just with everything that he's done on that property, it's not been approved. And my concern is also the environment and the fact that these are used cars. There's oil, there's gasoline, there's going to be fluids leaking out of these cars inevitably because they're going to sit there for a very long time. He's moved them. I can't even count how many times they've been moved back and forth. So you're creating an environmental issue. And then the runoff, which my husband will address, but the runoff is then going into that wastewater. And that's eventually going to be clogged up because of all the sand and the asphalt that he's brought in that's now being plowed in our backyard. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Catherman. I live at 455 Jones Avenue, and I want to address the chair's question regarding the owner. This is on page 101 of your packet. If you grant, this is signed by, Brad, is it Jeff Morris? Is that correct? Yeah. I think that addresses it right there. It says Countryside Motors will not change the character of the surrounding area. That's already happened. The business will not be hazardous. I would argue that that is not the case. So I just wanted to point that out first. I was going to commend and thank the city staff for the report, but the report has been changed since it was initially posted, unless it happened like right when the power went out at my house at about 6 o'clock.
I reviewed the report myself and learning that Countryside Motors has, one, submitted an incomplete application, and two, is currently in violation of city ordinance. I ask that you deny the request and ask that the vehicles currently displayed on the lot in question be removed by an established date as soon as possible. I question why the vehicles have been allowed to stay in the location to this point, since Countryside Motors has been in violation of city ordinance since the summer months. I witnessed the Compton Company moving soil and delivering crushed asphalt to fill this summer, and soon after, vehicles were displayed on the lot. Per the city staff report that you have on page 96, this earth-moving activity occurred without approval of the county's soil erosion and sediment control. The application to the city for the special land use permit was filed on October 27th, as you can see in your packet. I know of another business in another area of the city that was forced to shut down when being non-compliant with city ordinances. That situation, I believe, initiated your agenda item number 6 this evening regarding food trucks. I would hope that ordinances are enforced consistently across the city. I do want to draw your attention to 3 items specifically in the report for additional consideration. Number 1, on page 91, your packet regarding the completeness of the application. The application is currently incomplete as the applicant has not provided a topographic survey for the city engineer to review. I appreciate the city engineer went there, looked at the lot, but I believe a topographic survey is required. This is a major concern for me and my neighbors. Yesterday's snowstorm resulted in a snow plow with headlights into my living room this morning, moving snow and creating a large snow pile at the back of my property. I am concerned that the additional snow, when melted, will result in runoff onto my property and cause additional ponding and flooding. I have photos of the current snow pile for you to review. On page 97, item number 4 addresses demands on public services. This is an area that I differ with the city staff in their remarks, as I believe this auto sales lot will put additional demands on our city police department. On the morning of January 3rd, this past Monday, at 3:29 a.m., I witnessed what I believed was a South Haven PD vehicle, on the property, and a person, possibly an officer, I have to assume it was an officer, moving with a flashlight, looking into vehicles and into my backyard and my neighbor's backyard. This was startling to say the least, so I called the 5151 number, connected with Van Buren County Dispatch. Dispatcher informed me that no call had been issued to that property, so the officer was probably doing a routine patrol. If that's the case, this lot already has placed additional demands on our law enforcement officers. Finally, page 96, item 12. The applicant shall demonstrate that reasonable precautions will be made to prevent hazardous materials from entering the soil or water. Since these vehicles on the lot are pre-owned, as has already been mentioned, I can imagine that oil and fuel leakage will be a regular occurrence. I would like to know what precautions Countryside Motors has taken to address this issue to this point, and if there is a plan to keep these hazardous substances from discharging into soil and water runoff in the future. There are several other items listed in the report that I hope you will review that cause concern, including attention to the city's comprehensive plan and possible detriment to the surrounding community, appropriateness of satellite offices in the B2 district, consideration for the health, safety, and welfare of persons and adjacent property, and compliance with state requirements regarding auto sales licensure. To name a few, information regarding those state laws was provided by Mr. Aunson to Mr. Graham, and we were told that that would be distributed to the commission to review as well. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to do that. The final recommendation in the report, which apparently is now different, only based on this one item, the engineer now going and looking at the property, the original recommendation is to table the request, pending further review upon receipt of the requested information by staff, which has not been submitted, as far as I can tell. I ask that you take this a step further, since Countryside Motors has to this point been completely non-compliant, and deny the request outright. I would hope that you would understand and allow me an extra few minutes, since you changed your report, Brad, prior to...
Hey.
Yes.
It's not up to him. It's up to me.
I appreciate that. Sir,
1 minute.
Thank you very much. Final recommendation in the report is to table this request, pending further review. I ask that you take this a step further, since Countryside Motors has, to this point, been completely non-compliant, and denied the request outright. All I ask is that everyone follows the rules. If my trash bin is left out one day late, I got a letter from the city that said, "Get your trash bin back." He's had cars parked there since June 9th, filed his request on October 27th. I don't understand why the cars are still there. Thank you, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate your efforts. I served on city council where I lived before, and I know what work that you do as planning commission, so thank you. Appreciate your
Okay, thank
time,
you.
especially the length. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support. It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing, and Luke, whoever made, there were two that made the second, pick whoever you want. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, okay. Any motion that you guys want to make, or any further discussion?
I have a question for Brad.
Okay.
Brad, I'm looking specifically at page 96, item 13, and this is just for my education. It says the recent earth-moving activity appears to have occurred without the county's soil erosion and sedimentation control. Am I to take from that that the work that was done at that property was the county's responsibility to oversee, or the city's?
In Van Buren County, anytime you do any sort of land, basically reshaping on property that's, typically around an acre or larger, you have to have soil erosion and sedimentation control permits issued by Van Buren County. And that will require site visits on a regular basis to make sure that, there isn't any overflow of sedimentation into surrounding areas. I think there was some notification, it appears that some silt fence was installed on the site, but from what I understand, there was no permit issued for this. The city engineer may have more information on that, though.
Just further in my education here, and you always do a great job of that, would the city have to have given a permit to change the topography of that land?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, that is, again, like I said, strictly under Van Buren County control.
And then my second question is at the bottom, at item number 2. I'm sorry, I don't have a question on it. I just reread it.
Brad, I have a question. I don't know if this is better to be asked of you or the applicant, but Countryside Motors has a lot next to Marathon, correct? There were adjustments made to that property over the years to prevent drainage going down into the adjacent properties there, correct? Reason I know that because I lived at 313 Jones Street. And reason I'm asking is that if those adjustments had to be made at that location, and they're going to be doing the same thing down the road, would they need to make those same type of adjustments on the property down the road?
I'm unaware of the changes that were done at that
Because
time that you
reason
were
I'm
aware
asking
of, and
is
again,
it-
the city engineer may be able to speak more towards that, but he's not here.
Off the top of my head, I can't really picture her property, but some of the things that she was describing sound so familiar for me that the space in between the gate, the fence, and the runoff, and all of that. And it was really bad at one time, and when they fixed that, it corrected a lot. So I just can't tell the, because literally, when you, and I stand in my old backyard, I'm 6'2", and the property is high as I stand. So I empathize with the property owners because the runoff is bad, and if they had to do it a block down the road, I'm just wondering why they don't have to do it now.
Yeah, and again, I'm not sure if that was something that the city required him to do back then. I don't know. I don't know.
There, I can tell you.
You want her to
Yes,
tell you?
absolutely.
Please come up.
I was here before, back when Jerry did this before. Because this, Compton's just came in and did all this fill, Mr. Morris, I'm not, I know you're the person who's renting. So I'm talking about Mr. Morris, who owns the property. Before he brought all this fill in, it was flat, probably like a foot or two higher from my property. And so we came to the city when he was going to do this before, because he was just putting the cars out along Blue Star. And we went to the city and said, could he please put a fence up over there? Because even when the people were out there, I'm not good at distances, so I can't tell you what is okay. So they said, no, he didn't have to put up a fence because we already had a 6-foot fence in our backyard. So they decided that because, my fence was already up because we had a pool, and because it was set back, the highness of the property, the differences were far enough out, they said, that's not really a problem. You have a privacy fence, he doesn't have to do that. Now, since on June 9th, the heavy equipment came in and dumped, I can't even tell you how many loads of giant dump truck full of just dirt and grass, and, the pictures will show. It's right on my fence line, basically. Is there not even a setback?
Does that answer your
You have to keep cars farther away. So the reason was that this land was flat and it wasn't as much of a problem back then. Now that all this fill has come in, which I don't think there's been any permits for, I don't understand. If you're telling me that North Shore Drive, if somebody came next door and brought in 10 loads of dump trucks and dumped it in somebody's yard and made it 6 feet higher than the
Okay.
other?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I also have, questions for staff, not that we're dumping on Brad. But yeah, the question being, obviously, I think the licensing of the dealership is a staff, at some staff level, is not something we're going to deal with. But
No.
the type of ground cover, when we look at the property, and those of us who are old enough, the old Dales property, that now must be Zuckerman's, that looks like it's, sand, gravel, and dirt. I think when I look at the other two properties, the Morris property, which I think, that's got a parking lot, I thought, and then Jerry has a parking lot at Countryside. I'm just wondering, what's allowed, for dealerships within our ordinances, what's allowed to be, a dealership can park cars and run a dealership on, what's required for ground cover? Is it gravel, is it asphalt or cement and drainage, or can it just be an empty field? That brings up, to me, the bigger question, and is that portion, when we look at the drainage, are we allowed to just pick a spot and start parking cars within the city? I don't know. I thought you needed to have a hard surface.
Depends how many cars.
How many cars?
From what I understand is, one of the conditions that the city engineer did point out is he would prefer a permeable surface there to prevent further stormwater runoff. And so that could be anything, really. It could be gravel,
And I can see the stormwater runoff on a parking lot, and then I can see what can come off from vehicles, my own vehicle. So that was the bigger question to me. And certainly, if I was going to go forward to this, having a western fence or screening, definitely, especially in a special use, is something we can look at and is recommended.
If you all, read through my report there is a requirement for a fence of B2 property along residential property in the rear yard. It's a requirement for a site plan.
So that, I don't know, I question the runoff, and I also understand why. Anytime you have a parking lot, you have to have a solution of where the rainwater is going to go. So then now you're talking about drainage and an underwater system to get into the storm sewer system. Those
And is
are,
there a storm sewer to tie into?
Yeah.
Not all roads in town have a storm sewer.
Yeah, that's true. Is there one there? We hopefully, after all the work we did on Superior Street, we built that years ago. That's my, those are my comments.
All right, so more discussion, or is anybody willing to make a motion in some form?
I think enough questions have been raised that I would sure like to have a discussion with the city engineer. So I would be supportive of tabling this until the city engineer is available to speak to us.
I agree. I'd like to hear the neighbors' concerns addressed, both from screening as well as surface water runoff, and who's managing that ditch. It sounds like there's a drain down there that was, locally maintained, and now the property owner needs to step up and come up with a more permanent plan.
And that and the landscaping and buffering kind of thing that Clark brought up, I think and the fact that initially, I was looking at this as though it was going to be tabled, and now we're not looking at tabling it. I would kind of lean toward tabling it for now until we get staff to relook at it with maybe a little more detail. And I'm especially concerned about the change in the topography, and even though it sounds like the city didn't have any involvement in that, it sounds like it did affect the adjacent property owners, and if we kind of approve this, it seems like we're approving that change, which doesn't seem right to me.
What's the motion?
So I'll make a motion that we table the special land use application for 205, or I mean for 412 and 460 Blue Star Highway.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and supported to table this item. Is any other discussion? You may not, sorry. Any other discussion? Are you sure? I've warned you guys about this.
I know,
many times.
Table is a four-letter word, right?
No, because I tell you, I'm going to vote no on this motion. Because what is the word we use, Mike? Postpone.
Postpone.
If you motion the table, I will bring it up after we do item 11 again.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. All right.
I
So it's
make a
been moved and
motion,
supported to table. All in favor?
Can I make an amendment? to
All in favor of the motion?
No.
To table?
No.
All in favor, please say aye. All
Aye.
opposed, please say no.
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 Okay, I'll entertain another motion.
Sorry, teacher.
No, that's okay.
You won't forget it this time.
Yes, I will.
Oh, my God.
Go ahead, George, make the right motion.
Well, I was just going off the initial staff.
I know, they messed up too.
So,
They led you astray.
Good me, George.
Same thing, just motion to postpone.
all right, I make a motion to postpone the special land use application for 412 and 460 Blue Star Highway.
Is there-
Second.
It's been moved and supported to postpone. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Very good, guys. I'm proud of you.
Thank you for your help.
But I don't think you'll forget it this time. I think that'll come back.
I'll be right there.
All right, new business, item 11, site plan review, 570 Broadway Street. Brad?
Okay, Terra Architects is here representing Great Lakes Eye Care Center, and they're applying for a standard site plan review, so no public hearing for this one.
And it is located at 570 Broadway Street. And what they will be proposing, obviously, is a professional medical office on site. They're proposing to renovate the 1,665 square foot building that exists there now and put an 885 square foot addition on the north side of the building. This is located in the B2 Business District and also along the M43 I-196 Business Loop Corridor District, which would have effect on the signage and things like that on there. This is at the corner of Broadway and Green Street, if you all are familiar with that vacant building that's down there. And basically, what they would be doing is, I don't know if you all remember a few months back, we had someone looking at this property to try and turn this into a drive-through restaurant, and at the time, we mentioned that this was a legal non-conforming building at the time, and if you remember, it was legal non-conforming because it sits a little too close to the road on Green Street. However, traditionally, what you would do in the sense of expanding a non-conforming building in the non-conforming direction would be to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. However, this expansion is in the opposite direction of the nonconformity, so that classifies as a typical site plan review and not having to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals route. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. I believe the applicant is here to answer questions for you as well.
So any questions for Brad before we ask the applicant to come forward? No? The applicant like to talk about their project? Can you throw up one of the images? Or display, not throw up. Let's use a better word, display.
I was totally going to call you on that.
Talking language here.
I know.
Yeah, it's all about language,
It
isn't it? Maybe I'll close with something about language. Okay, yeah, perfect. That's nice. All right.
Right. Well, good evening. My name is Arunas Ramsa. I'm with Terra Architects and Pearson Construction. I'm here with Jim Duray from Great Lakes Eye Care. So thank you for listening to how we can improve your community here. We looked at this building in the fall. It was a kind of a quick project. The proposed use and the existing space seemed to have a nice fit. We were able to take the existing building, add the additional exam rooms, and kind of do it and fit it into sort of the existing traffic and parking pattern on the site. So it was a fairly clean insertion without taking apart or redoing the whole site. So what as far as the site plan is concerned, it is on the Green Street site, it is a non-conforming use. We're not touching that site. Our proposed is to take all the drive at the stucco off. There's been some rot, there's been some degradation. We're going to take the big arches off. We're going to make it into a more low-level residential use. Some of the issues that you're typically concerned about are, I hear, is exterior lighting. We do have some, not quite shown here, it is a high cutoff lighting all the way around the building. Everything on the parking area is going to stay the same. I think there was an issue or the comment made about maybe a screen wall. When we were looking at this during the long fall that we had, it was kind of a green wall. We can update it as required, but again, it's sort of it fit the owner really well because they were able to take an operation without a lot of surgery, insert their use, and move on with their business in a short period of time. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I either say too much or too little, so be happy to entertain any questions, or Jim?
Yeah, we were downtown, we were down on Phoenix Street for many years, 13, 14 years, Dr. Fenske's old building, and that building then was sold, or we were asked to vacate. We wanted to stay in South Haven. We have a presence here. Dr. Wong's been here for 16 years now. And we'd like to move out there and make it our home again.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? All right, thank you.
Okay.
If we have any more, I'll have you come back up. I think this one's pretty cut and dry. Okay, who's Who's volunteering this time? You haven't made a motion yet tonight, have you?
Well, I'm looking at the recommendations.
Okay.
Applicant needs to provide more clarification about traffic flow patterns,
Yeah.
parking area.
Because we have enough items for everybody tonight to make a motion, so we'll go around the horn. Like, that's an example, you don't have to put that in the minutes.
STEG.
Hey, Brad, do you want to speak while he's thinking about that, about the screening with
Yes.
the residential?
Again, this is a B2 property, and as I had mentioned before, B2 properties that are adjacent to residential properties are required to have 5-foot screening along the rear and side yards. Obviously, the side yards this time is the side of another business and then a street corner, so you can't put anything there. But if you are all familiar with that site, as they had mentioned, there are plenty of trees again along this property there with the neighbors. There is also a partial fence, a 6-foot high privacy fence that does run along there, because I believe the property that's on Green Street just west of this, I believe that's their backyard. So I believe that that's where the 6-foot privacy fence is there for them. I'm not sure how far up Phoenix Street that fence goes. So there is partial screening that already does exist there, but it does not exist in that sense all the way to the very north property line of this parcel. So that's kind of the situation that is present right now. And as I said, I think 1709 is the section in the zoning ordinance that does require some sort of screening installation between a residential and a commercial property along a B2.
Okay.
I guess I have a question. If there's already screening there, and the screening happens to be provided by the homeowners on the other side, and they remove that, could there be some requirement down the road that they would have to put up some kind of screening? Or are we going to have double
Yes,
screening?
I believe so. If the resident decided they didn't want a fence anymore, they could take the fence down and put the impetus on the commercial property to install one. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can place condition on that if that's something that the commission chooses to do. And again, it's not the resident who's required to screen their backyard. It's
Right,
just,
it's a benefit.
in this situation, it
It's a
just
benefit
happens
that
to be
it's there now. It'd be ridiculous to have two fences stacked next to each other just for
Yes.
the face of having it. But then down the road, if that were to change, I would think that would just be the only additional requirement we would want to put on a special.
Clark, I think your point's well taken. I mean, it might be too common sense, but might be a great question to ask the current resident.
Right.
I mean, we did deal with this exact question when we were looking at whether the restaurant could go in there. We talked about that screening in the back, so.
I mean, and may I also speak to the parking and things? There, the applicant, we did note the number of parking spaces that do exist on site. I believe they're planning on using those as many as they possibly can and reusing the parking surfaces as well. I would like to see just a little bit more detail on the flow patterns of the aisle widths and things like that, but those are items that can be hashed out during building permit applications and things like that, because we do have to verify those sorts of things anyways when those permits come into play here at City Hall. So that's something that the city engineer and I do look at when applications do come in.
Okay. So in that motion, we need a little language about the fencing and a little bit
do that.
about the parking.
Yeah. I'll move that the planning commission conditionally approve this site plan as presented with the following, with 4 conditions, the 3 recommended by the staff in our packet, and a 4th, some language between the city and the applicant regarding a future fence, should it be needed, screening fence on the west property line, should it be needed. Can you clean that up for me, Brad?
Well, we'll clean it up.
Okay.
So, okay, is there support?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we just discuss this motion just in a little bit more detail so it adds some direction to staff?
Isn't it what we're asking, and I don't know how we'd put it in a motion, but we're just asking from a commitment from these folks that that screening will remain in place. Now, whether it's what's there now or what changes, the commitment that that screening would be.
Could it just be that that the responsibility to maintain the screen between this and the adjacent residential property is the obligation of the.
That would make sense to me, because maintenance could mean if the neighbor decided to take it down, well, then we got to put a new one up.
Yeah.
Okay? Brad? Got it? Okay.
I have another question for you. On item 2 of the recommendations, first sentence there, Planning Commission has discretionary authority to determine the amount of landscaping for.
Yep,
Are you clear on what our intent is there?
I'm not, but.
Neither am I.
Yes. If you would like to discuss that, that's fine. If you're all familiar with this property, there's not a lot of space there as it is. The applicant is planning on, whoops, I did have it up there, putting in some additional landscaping on the property. But again, you have full discretionary call in overlay district to be able to do that. Yep.
Thought we had an overlay.
Well, I agree, and with the parking that's there, I hate to go in and mess it up and put a few trees around there.
That's kind of, yeah, it's a
but
very.
I think some landscaping along Broadway would clean things up a great deal. And that would, and that's just my opinion. I think our commission here ought to all weigh in on something like that, because it is discretionary, and it's up to us. My thought is.
Amending the motion?
The motion is out there, and I'm just discussing what is meant by number 2.
Okay.
Clarifying, yeah.
That's what I see as being included there, but.
Isn't there a corridor landscaping overlay that we created for that area?
So the amount of landscaping, are you referring to square footage?
It's not, and Clark, you are correct, there is, but not in this overlay
Thank you.
district. There's 3 different overlay districts. That's the B over on the highway, and those, there's more where you actually require a certain specific amount on there. This is really, it says right in the ordinance, the planning commission has discretionary if they
Okay.
feel that is necessary.
Okay.
The parking area requires a certain number of trees and that kind of thing. I wouldn't want to see them in the parking. Can we put them over against Broadway frontage? That's just a suggestion that I have to interpret what's in the motion here.
Okay.
I guess to weigh in on that, Larry, I would hope that the landscaping would be consistent with the adjoining business properties. I mean, what we're asking others on Broadway to do, I think should be what we ask of them. I mean, I personally look at their mock-up of the building, and I'm really excited. That corner is going to look a whole lot better than it's looked in a long time.
Sure.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean,
I'd like to make the parking lot look a whole lot better, too.
I would too. If just paving, it's going to look a whole lot better than what it looks right now. Agreed.
No, okay.
The concern I would have about putting landscaping on Broadway is you've got.
Snow and salt?
Well, that and vehicles entering and exiting the parking lot and being able to see oncoming traffic.
It has
on
to be
Broadway.
properly designed,
Especially Green
certainly.
Street with buses, yeah.
Exactly.
You've got school
Shut
buses.
my eyes when I turn there now.
Okay. Did you get our discretion?
I think I kind of get the
Okay.
gist.
I hope the architect did, too.
You're good, Arun.
Good, thank you.
All right, so some semblance of beautification, but not insane, right? Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, I got did we do a public hearing on this one?
You don't have to.
Okay. but we can take public comment. I didn't do that, did I? All right, so there is a motion on the floor. I'm gonna hold for a second. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to talk on this item?
She shook her head no.
No? The last one? Okay. So no more public comment on it. We have a motion. It's been supported. We'll do a roll call.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes?
Nichols,
Yes.
Hanny,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. Okay. What's that bring us to? Item 12, 2021 Annual Report. So how'd we do, Brad?
You were busy. Yeah, the annual report, as you remember, just kind of sums up briefly what we did all year long. This year, Griffin actually put together the report, and I thought he did a very good job personally. It basically summarizes in the table that's up on the screen there, all the different meetings, what the agenda items were, what the actions were, and topics that were discussed for each. The purpose of this is a requirement from the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, and it requires the Planning Commission basically to report to the governing body of the municipality on the status of what's going on in the planning field. So you all here are presented with what you've done and over the last year, and if you are satisfied with that, you can recommend to send it on to City Council for review.
I'm not a co-chair, I'm a vice chair. That's the proper term
That
according
is-
to the ordinance.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so this is your ribbon or award certificate right here. It's a couple pages long. So I don't see anything wrong with it, and, yeah, it's always interesting to see that kind of summary, and you're like, yep, a lot of hours. So with that, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to forward the annual report on to City Council.
And request compensation for, no, okay.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, commission member and staff comments. You guys got anything? No? Okay. Where did we start last time?
Good meeting. I enjoy working with all of you, staff and everybody. I never hesitate to come to this meeting. And I enjoy working with all of you. Thank you.
Good for you, because sometimes I hesitate. That's good. All right, Clark?
Thanks a lot for all the work that Brad did. Not only did he help me today because I hadn't completely got through the detail I wanted to, he also reminded us tonight that he had things in the report right in front of us. So I know that he puts that together. Two, I want to thank the chairman, and I appreciate you speaking up today during the meeting to protect staff. That's what's needed. And three, I can confirm that Assistant City Manager Griffin Graham did get married. He said yes, she said yes.
Postpone versus table. Got it.
I knew someone was going to say that.
I'll remember that for you, Tim.
Okay.
I guess my only comment is appreciate everybody staying awake until almost bedtime here. I'm going to go home and see if the city electrical department has my power back on.
Oh, boy.
Oh, hopefully they do.
Long night, but it was productive, and this is a good group of people to to be working with. So I appreciate all of you, and the chairperson ain't too bad either. So.
Keep you entertained.
I just want to know if Ligy's saying that because he's sitting next to you and you can reach him. We're getting a little slap happy here at the end. Yeah, really good meeting. Thank you guys for answering a lot of questions because I had a lot, and by the time everybody would get around, all my questions were answered. So thanks.
Yeah, same with me. Just thank you. And just to reinforce it, it is a pleasure to work with you all. I'm very, very proud of what this body does, including you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mike.
And I'd like to include Larry in that too. Larry's had to fill in a couple times this past year.
Yep.
We carry the weight. We get stuff done. We get stuff done. So thank you very much, Luke. I hope we talked clear enough and slow enough for you, but welcome aboard.
Work on your R's.
No,
no.
I'm changing my name so he can say it like George.
Are you from Luke? Are you from New England?
Sleeper.
Sorry.
He's right
Are
there.
you from New England?
Well, I'm from Old England.
Old England.
Yeah.
Old England.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm from
the
actual
old
England.
England.
Across the pond.
I like that. Old England. I like
I'm
that.
changing my
That's a
name
good
to
one.
put an R on the end just so you can say it. for
Sure,
me.
yeah. Thanks.
So, Brad, we're pretty caught up on everything, aren't we? Not too many things hanging out.
Yeah, we're caught up. I'm glad we got through tonight. It was a long one, as you said. You know, as you all know, and I did mention, we had some great discussions on the phone today, folks. I was happy to talk, and I learned all about Amy's trip, so it was wonderful. We got some busy months coming up, and I
Right.
think you all realize that, and you're chugging through. So
But we're not
it's good.
behind anymore.
No,
Yeah.
nope.
Okay, excellent. Way to start out the new year.
Now we know to postpone.
And speaking of the new year, you always have to have New Year's resolutions, right? And since we were debating vocabulary a little bit tonight, for me personally, and I don't know about you guys, but these days it seems when you have meetings with people and discuss things, a lot of times you hear certain words and phrases like reach out, circle back, things like that. And I've decided for my New Year's resolution, if I say reach out, I'll pay you guys 50 cents at one of these meetings because I am going to ditch that phrase. It's overused. So that's my New Year's resolution. No more reach out. I'm going to connect.
I hope we circle back on that.
Yeah. No, we have to postpone that.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
think
Planning
it's
Commission
un-
meeting is adjourned.